Hi everyone. Tonight we're going to start with something a little less philosophical, but no less fascinating: the food served in the Wild West. Saloons, sure, they're known for their whiskey wars and questionable piano music, but what did people actually eat there? Was it all beans and bacon? Or was there a surprise hidden behind those swinging doors? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. And let me know in the comments where and what you're watching from. It's time. It's been fun to see who's joining us from all over the world. Now turn out the lights. You step into the saloon, not through a door exactly, but through a pair of battered swinging shutters that creak and flap like tired birds. The sunlight behind you turns to dust in the air as it filters through, cutting across a room that's more brown than any color should be. Everything smells like old wood, new sweat, and bacon that burned slightly 4 hours ago. The floorboards creak beneath your boots, not in protest, just in exhaustion. They've seen every kind of boot imaginable: polished cavalry boots, muddy farmer boots, blood-stained outlaw boots, and now yours, new enough to still be noticed, old enough to not look foolish. Inside, the air is thick, not hot necessarily, but heavy. It wraps around your neck and settles into the collar of your shirt like an old hand. There's the scent of beer spilled and dried into the floor 100 times. There's tobacco smoke still swirling, even though nobody's smoking right now. There's a hint of something meaty, maybe pork, maybe beef, maybe something that used to be one and now just is what it is. Somewhere under all that, there's the faint sweetness of molasses, or maybe it's just the memory of dessert from last week hanging on. You don't sit down yet. You take it in first. The piano in the corner is missing 3 keys and played by a man with 4 teeth. He doesn't sing, and thank goodness for that. The music isn't a melody so much as a warning to behave. The bar itself is long and scarred like an old prize fighter. Behind it stands a man with a beard that looks like it might bite you back. He's cleaning a glass with something that might once have been a towel, and he's watching you, not curious, not hostile, just measuring. That's the mood of the whole place, really. Everything is measuring you. You notice the tables are sticky, not all of them in the same way. Some are sticky from syrup, some from beer, some from blood that's been wiped up with more beer. The chairs never match the tables. Half the stools wobble. One of them bites. No one knows why, but it's the one with the knife stuck in its leg. People learn quickly not to sit on that one. In the far corner, a man is asleep with his hat over his face. Or maybe he's dead. No one checks. If he's just drunk, he'll wake up. If he's dead, the undertaker will come by later. Either way, life in the saloon continues at its own rhythm, undisturbed by the moral clarity of other places. The light here is mostly oil lamp, yellow and flickering. It paints everyone in the same worn-down gold, like a dusty halo. You don't really see faces, just outlines, gestures, glints off belt buckles, and gun barrels. That's all the information you need. There's a fire in the hearth, more for habit than heat. The desert sun does enough of that. But the hearth means something. It says this is a place where people sit and try to feel human again, even if only for the length of a whiskey shot. It smells like old ash and pine pitch, a smell that clings to your clothes and tells your horse you've been drinking again. There's no menu here. The food is what it is. And if you ask too many questions, you're told that it's bean night, which it is every night, and somehow never quite the same. The cook is invisible but omnipresent. Somewhere in the back, she's boiling something, always boiling something. And you can hear the slosh and hiss as she stirs a pot the size of your bathtub with a ladle that doubles as a weapon. The sounds are constant but subdued. Clinks of glass, murmurs of poker hands, the occasional low chuckle or cough. Outside, a horse whinnies and is told to hush. A dog barks and is ignored. Time here runs thick, like molasses spilled on a tabletop and forgotten. And in this strange air, your stomach does something surprising. It growls, not out of hunger exactly, but out of curiosity, because despite the smells, or maybe because of them, you realize you want to eat here. You want to taste what all this wood and sweat and smoke has made. You want to know what food becomes after it's filtered through hardship and overcooked by memory. You want to try the beans, even if they're burnt. You want the coffee, even if it's boiled, until it fights back. You want to eat here, not because it's good, but because it's true. And because no one in here ever eats alone unless they choose to. This is not fine dining. This is survival with a side of salt. This is a place where the bacon was fried in the same pan used for bullets last night, where the stew gets better the longer it simmers because no one's dared clean the pot since last spring. This is where flavor means whatever didn't get burned off, and that's the magic of a Wild West saloon. It's not in the recipes or the presentation or the ingredients you'd recognize. It's in the atmosphere, thick, unshakable, and honest. It's in the stories told between bites, in the silences that say just as much. It's in the way you come in dusty and tired and leave just slightly less hollow. You haven't eaten yet, but already you feel full of something. Maybe it's the smell. Maybe it's the ghost of last night's chili. Maybe it's just the feeling of being somewhere that doesn't care where you came from, only whether you'll finish your plate and mind your manners. You sit. The table sticks to your arms. The lamp flickers above. And in that golden flickering glow, the saloon breathes you in and welcomes you. You haven't even ordered yet, but your elbows are already sticking to the table and your boots are dusting the floor with half the town. And that's when it begins, the quiet choreography of eating in a place like this. Because in a Wild West saloon, the food isn't just served. It arrives the way a storm does, sudden, unapologetic, and with absolutely no menu. The first thing to understand is that you don't order. Not really. You can try. You might ask for the stew, or the beans, or something called today's special. The barkeep will stare at you for a beat too long, then yell toward the back one plate. That's it. One plate. Everyone gets the plate. It's not what you want, it's what there is. And what there is always hot, questionable, and oddly comforting. Before the plate comes, a dented tin cup thunks in front of you, full of something dark and steaming. It could be coffee. It could be regret, but you sip it anyway, and it fights you at first. Too bitter, too hot, too thick, and then something inside you settles, like your organs have agreed to tolerate this because it's better than water from the horse trough. The table you're at wasn't always a table. It might have been a door once, or a wagon plank, or someone's floorboard. It's been scrubbed exactly never. Carved into the surface are names, dates, poker hands, love notes, and possibly the start of a confession no one lived to finish. You run your fingers over the grooves and feel history. Not the kind in books, the kind that got away with something. Around you, others are already eating. They don't speak much. Food here is serious business. A fork clinks against a tin plate like a blacksmith forging something edible. Knives aren't for cutting. Most of the food surrenders under pressure. The meat, when it exists, is boiled into surrender or fried into something beyond language. Beans come in an avalanche. No one counts them. No one dares. There's a rhythm to it. The cook slams plates onto the bar. The barkeep grabs them with hands that have seen too much and slaps them down in front of whoever looks hungry enough. No numbers. No names. No order up. Just food, arriving like fate. Sometimes it's stew. You can't tell what's in it. You shouldn't ask. But it's hot, and the bread that comes with it is dense enough to qualify as weaponry. You tear it anyway. You dip. You chew, like survival depends on it. And maybe it does. The regulars don't look at you, not directly, but they're listening. They listen to how you chew, how fast you eat, whether you finish. They can smell the city on you, or the fear, or the hope. The saloon doesn't test you with questions, it tests you with gravy. There's a bucket near the stove. No one speaks of it, but you'll learn its purpose soon enough. Some things are too hard to chew, even for the desperate. That's what the bucket is for. Quiet failure. And yet, despite everything, the food is good. Not by any traditional measure, not by spice or seasoning or plating, but by hunger and exhaustion and the strange satisfaction of eating something that's been boiled into submission for your benefit. The saloon itself helps. The way it smells like pine smoke and lard and cigar ashes. The way the heat from the stove creeps into your boots and convinces you to stay longer. The way the bar glows with a low golden sheen, like it's holding the last light of the day just for you. You finish your plate. You don't remember doing it. It just happens. One moment, you're cautiously poking a questionable potato. The next, you're scraping the bottom of the dish like a man who's tasted memory. And then, as if on cue, someone slides a pickle toward you, a single wrinkled, salty little relic of preservation. You eat it. It's the closest thing to fresh you've had all week. The bartender nods. It's not approval exactly. It's acknowledgement. You've eaten. You've passed. You belong for now. Then the plate disappears. You don't see it go. It just isn't there anymore. That's how things move here, without ceremony, without explanation. You lean back, and the chair groans. You groan too. Something in your belly thanks you. Something in your brain wonders what you just survived. Around you, conversations pick up again. Someone starts humming. A poker hand gets slammed down with more enthusiasm than necessary. The man at the piano plays a note that could be a mistake or a cry for help. The cook coughs behind the curtain and stirs the next pot. And just like that, the meal is over. Not finished over. Because in the saloon, time doesn't move forward. It just tilts sideways, and you're carried with it. You don't ask for dessert. There might be pie, but it comes only when the cook feels generous or guilty. Neither mood is predictable. If you're lucky, you might get a sliver of cornbread soaked in molasses. If you're really lucky, you won't get food poisoning. But even if you do, you'll come back. Everyone does. Because there's something in the way food tastes when it's been made not for love or money or art, but for sheer stubborn existence. There's something noble in that, or at least honest. You push your cup away. The coffee's gone cold, but still bites. Your chair sticks as you rise, as if asking you to stay just a minute longer, but you don't. You walk toward the swinging shutters again, back out into the sun and the dust and the waiting horse. And as you step over the threshold, as the light hits your face again, and the saloon exhales behind you, you realize something important. You didn't just eat. You participated in a ritual. You passed a test. You became a story someone else will tell tomorrow. Because here in the saloon, food is more than survival. It's introduction, initiation, communion. You've been fed by the West itself, and you're still standing. Tomorrow, maybe you'll brave the stew. Maybe you'll try the fried thing. Maybe you'll meet the cook, or the pie, or the bucket. But tonight, you've eaten like a cowboy, and that's enough. You tell yourself you won't come back the next day. But by dusk, your feet find their own way to the saloon, like horses heading to water. Maybe it's the warmth. Maybe it's the coffee. Maybe it's the beans. Because no matter what the sign outside says, or if there even is one, this is a bean saloon. Every Wild West eating place is whether they admit it or not. Beans are the alpha and omega of frontier food. The cheap protein, the portable miracle, the fart machine of manifest destiny. They arrive without warning, as most things do in a place like this. No flourish, no apology, just a tin plate dropped in front of you, steaming with a mountain of soft brown lumps that resemble mud and mercy in equal measure. You stare at them for a moment, trying to decide if you're grateful or insulted. But you eat them anyway. You always do. The first bite burns your tongue because they are always hot, not warm, not cozy, molten, like the cook boiled them in the fires of resentment. But once the pain subsides, you start to taste the history. Salt, smoke, maybe a whisper of onion if it was a good delivery week, and always, always the unmistakable tang of bacon grease, even if there's no bacon in sight. Somehow, every pot of beans has rubbed elbows with a piece of pork at some point, and that memory lingers like a ghost. You learn quickly not to ask what kind of beans they are. Pinto navy black. That's Eastern talk. Out here, beans are beans. They are many. They are mysterious. They are cooked down to the point where their original shape is more theory than reality. No one eats them politely. You shovel. You mop. You splay hunks of bread across the plate to gather the molten pool at the bottom like survivors on a raft. There's no shame in second helpings. In fact, not getting seconds might be an insult to the cook to the saloon to beans as a concept. Around you, the regulars eat in silence. But it's a reverent kind of silence, the kind reserved for funerals and beans. They chew with slow intensity eyes, lowered like monks taking communion. Somewhere in the back, a pot bubbles. It has been bubbling since the saloon opened. Maybe longer. Some say the same pot has been going for years, just topped off, stirred forgiven. There's a story, because there's always a story, that one saloon never changed its bean pot for a decade. The owner said it was a sacred relic, that the older the pot, the better the flavor, that it contained the soul of the West. He died of dysentery, but the beans still going strong. The spoon you use might be bent, might be someone else's, might be a knife. Doesn't matter. Beans don't care what you use. They'll get inside you one way or another. They were made to travel inside saddlebags, tin cans, belly pouches, and eventually you. Every outlaw preacher and snake oil salesman has dined on them. Even the sheriff. Especially the sheriff. Beans are democratic. You don't have to earn them. You don't have to like them. You just have to respect them. They show up when nothing else does. when the meat is gone, when the corn has run dry, when the world outside is made of rattlesnakes and regret. Some nights, if the cook is feeling generous or experimental, you'll get beans with something, a bit of pork fat, a sliver of dried chili, a rogue hunk of potato that wandered into the wrong pot. You'll never see it coming, and you'll never see it again. But in that moment, you feel like royalty. Like the saloon gods smiled and dropped a gift into your supper. Beans are also currency. You trade chores for them, play cards over them, bribe small children with them. On particularly lean nights, you might even trade a story for a scoop, one tall tale about a haunted mine or a cactus that talks, and the cook slides you another ladle with a grunt. No thanks, no smile, just beans, and somehow that's enough. You don't talk about what happens after the beans. That's between you, your bunk, and the Lord. But in a town where most folks sleep within earshot of each other, the consequences are public knowledge. No one judges. Everyone participates. The great western wind symphony is nightly and unashamed. Some say you can judge a saloon by its beans. If they're burned, the place is cursed. If they're bland, the owner's given up. But if they're rich, smoky, and oddly soulful, you've found a place worth returning to. Even if the roof leaks and the chairs bite. Even if the whiskey tastes like horse liniment. Good beans are home. You finish your plate slower this time. Not because you're less hungry, but because you've learned to savor it, to appreciate the strange dignity of a food that asks so little and gives so much. You soak the last drops with a crust of bread and swallow them like a secret. Then you lean back and listen. The saloon has its own soundtrack. The rattle of spurs, the hiss of the stove, the clink of tin cups, and the slow drawl of conversation winding through a dozen mouths. Someone sings quietly in the corner, a song with no verses, just a hum that reminds you of beans and dusk and being alive. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve. That's what sleeves are for. You nod to the cook, who pretends not to see. But you know he does. He always does. And then you rise, full not just of food, but of something harder to name. A kind of warmth, a kind of gravity. Like the saloon has pulled you in, made you part of its bean-fed bloodstream. You step out again into the dusty dark, where the stars blink like campfire coals, and the coyotes argue in the distance. You smell the night. You hear your stomach gurgle in contentment and maybe mild alarm. And you smile, because tomorrow you might try something new. The stew, the salt pork, even the coffee again. But tonight was for beans. You tell yourself, maybe the beans were a one-time affair, a dusty romance, a moment shared under low light and high sodium. But the next evening, there you are again, sleeves rolled, boots, aching eyes scanning the board or whatever passes for a menu in this town. That's when you spot it. Not written down, not announced, just whispered from plate to plate like an outlaw rumor salt pork. Your ears perk up. Your stomach takes notice. Your heart tries to warn you, but it's too late. Salt pork is on tonight. It arrives with no ceremony, no herbs, no apologies. A slab the size of a harmonica, glistening with its own logic. It doesn't look like meat so much as it looks like an argument between meat and the fat clearly won. There's no knife involved, just a fork or maybe a spoon, Or maybe just your fingers and fate. You poke it, it jiggles. You bite it, it bites back. But then miraculously, it melts. A salty, smoky surrender that coats your mouth and settles somewhere between comfort and collapse. You blink. You chew slower. You realize you've entered a different kind of Wild West now. This isn't food. This is ballast. Salt pork isn't just an ingredient, it's a message. A declaration that this saloon feeds survivors, not customers. It's meat preserved through time trial and enough salt to dry a riverbed. You could bury it for a decade, and it'd still come back swinging. Which, to be fair, some cooks probably have. You look around, wondering if anyone else is tasting the history. But no one makes eye contact during salt pork. It's a private moment, a silent contract. Everyone has their own way of coping. Some slice it paper thin, pretending it's delicate. Others chomp it like a dare. One man dips his in coffee like a lunatic. You respect that. Salt pork has rules. Not official ones, of course, but the kind your stomach learns the hard way. Rule 1. Never eat salt pork on an empty stomach. Sounds backward, but it's true. You need beans or bread to act as padding, or the pork will hit you like a freight train made of salt and regret. Rule 2. Don't ask where it came from. Salt pork has no origin story. It just is. Like dust, or whiskey, or justice. And Rule 3. Don't eat the rind unless you've made peace with your past. The rind is a relic, a fossil, a dare wrapped in pigskin. If you chew it long enough, you'll either discover inner peace or a dental bill, sometimes both. The cook watches from the shadows, arms crossed, face unreadable. He knows what he's done. He knows who will rise and who will fall. Salt pork night is his coliseum. You take another bite. It's chewy. It's defiant. It's beautiful. Not in the way a roast duck is beautiful. No one writes poetry about salt pork, but if someone sang a folk ballad about surviving a flood, losing a horse, and finding shelter under a railroad bridge, it would taste like this. Salt pork doesn't care about your expectations. It doesn't try to impress. It just shows up and gets the job done. It's the frontier equivalent of a grizzled deputy who never smiles and always shoots straight. You don't love him, but you trust him. And if you're lucky, really lucky, you'll catch a corner that's been crisped. Just enough char to whisper of fire, of hard-earned sear. That corner, that bite, it's everything. You could write home about it if home hadn't floated away on the river last spring. You mop up the grease with whatever bread's still holding structure. That's the trick. With salt pork, it leaves gifts, little pools of golden defiance. You chase them around the plate like a prospector panning for glory. Every drop counts. Across the saloon, someone lets out a low whistle. Not in complaint, in awe. That's the salt pork anthem. You nod. The cook nods. Everyone nods. And just when you think it's over, when the pork has disappeared, and only the memory lingers on your lips, you feel it. A slow wave rising from your stomach. Not nausea, not regret, something deeper. A density, like you've swallowed a paragraph from the Constitution. You sit back, eyes half closed. You're full, but not just with food, with story, with salt, with a kind of edible armor that says, yes, I live here now. I eat pork bricks and chase them with coffee sludge. Speaking of coffee, it's coming. Because nothing pairs with a block of salty animal logic like a tin cup of high caffeine regret. But that's a story for another night. For now, you let the salt settle in your bones. You let the grease polish your tongue. You let the night breeze slip through the door and mingle with the smell of pork and sawdust and quiet satisfaction. You survived salt pork night. You didn't blink. You didn't cry. You didn't ask for a knife. You're one of them now. And tomorrow, well, tomorrow might just be stew. You tell yourself you'll take a break. After salt pork night, your stomach deserves diplomacy. Something soft. Something gentle. Something that doesn't arrive on a plate like a dare. But then you hear the word again, whispered from a man half asleep in the corner, muttered by a woman stirring her whiskey with her finger confirmed by the barkeep with a single solemn nod. Stew. Not just any stew. The stew. The one that's been simmering since last Tuesday, or maybe last year. No one really knows, and no one asks. It's just called the stew because it has outlived the need for adjectives. You don't order it. It orders you. One moment, you're sipping coffee, and the next, a bowl lands in front of you with a thud that shakes the salt shaker 2 tables down. The bowl is deep. The stew is deeper. It doesn't steam. It broods. It's the color of things buried and then remembered. Somewhere between mud rust and maybe a memory of beef. It doesn't smell like any one thing. It smells like everything that's ever been dropped in that pot. Meat? Yes. Vegetables? Possibly. Sins? Very likely. You lean in cautiously. The surface shimmers with a layer of fat, so committed it could survive a siege. You poke at it with a spoon. It moves, but slowly, as if reluctant to break character. And then you take a bite. It's a conversation. The first taste is confusion. Is that beef? Or is that what used to be beef? There's something root-like, something peppery, something that might once have been a turnip or a lie. You chew slowly, not because it's tough, but because your tongue is trying to make sense of what just happened. Then comes warmth. Not the polite warmth of soup. No. This is stew warmth. The kind that settles behind your ribs like a campfire built by someone who's survived something. It coats you. It forgives you. It erases salt pork, night bean night, and the time you accidentally bit into a cartridge thinking it was a biscuit. This stew doesn't just feed you, it rewrites you. The meat is shredded, not from knives, but from time. Whatever it once was, cow, elk, possum, with good posture, it no longer matters. It has surrendered fully. It gives itself up in every spoonful, like it's proud to nourish you. The vegetables are not crisp. They are not bright. They are not particularly identifiable. But they are there. They add depth. They add color. Well, sort of. They add something like the idea of color. And the broth, oh, the broth. Thick, brown, suspiciously opaque, and utterly honest. You could float a nail in it. You could patch a roof with it. You could baptize a sinner and cleanse a soul if you stirred hard enough. But instead, you sip, and sip again. And somewhere between the third and fourth spoonful, you feel it, the reset. This is the Saloons restart button, a culinary, cultural alt-delete. You are no longer the person who limped in from the trail. You are no longer the person who once questioned stew. You are someone who believes in flavor, in forgiveness, in the mystery of meat that has boiled long enough to forget what it used to be. Around you, others eat in silence, not because the stew is sacred, but because talking would break the spell. It's not a meal, it's a ritual, and you are mid-incantation. Someone at the next table mumbles, "Tastes better than last week." Someone else nods and says, "Because it is last week." You don't flinch, because you know. The stew never starts fresh. It just continues, a living document, a broth-based biography of everything this town has been too tired to throw away. You reach the bottom of the bowl and find something unidentifiable, soft, round, possibly intentional. You eat it anyway. You're past questioning now. You wipe the last streak of broth with the corner of dry bread, and the world seems clearer, brighter. Even the piano sounds less like a threat and more like a lullaby. You've been stewed, and in that fullness, not just of belly, but of belonging, you understand something. The stew isn't perfect, but it's enough. And in the Wild West, that's as rare as fresh vegetables. You lean back in your chair. The barkeep nods. The cook pokes his head out just long enough to see you sigh and surrender. He disappears again, satisfied. Outside, the sky is purpling. The horses are snorting in the dust. Somewhere, someone is yelling about poker. But inside, all is warm. All is still. And deep within you, the stew settles like a secret. Tomorrow you hear it might be chilly night. And just like that, your spoon twitches. You think you've seen it all. Beans broke your pride. Salt pork broke your resolve. Stew erased your identity and replaced it with a slow-cooked version of yourself. But chili chili breaks the laws of physics. You hear about it before you smell it. There's a tension in the air, like the saloon is holding its breath. No music, no shouting, just spoons clinking with caution, and the occasional cough from someone who underestimated the spice. The barkeep doesn't say anything. He just squints, points at your stomach like he's aiming a warning shot, and then ladles it out. One scoop, two, three. You lose count. The bowl looks like it's been filled with regret and set on fire. You stare into it. It stares back. This is not stew. This is a statement. Chili night doesn't ask you if you're ready. Chili night is ready, and you're just collateral. There's no garnish, no cheese, no apologies. Just a red so deep it could stain your past. You catch a whiff, smoked meat pepper, and something vaguely metallic like the flavor of old decisions. You lift the spoon. It's heavier than usual. You're not sure if it's the weight of the food or the responsibility. The first bite is transcendental. And by transcendental, you mean violently unexpected. Your mouth experiences the 5 stages of grief before it finishes chewing. Denial. That can't be spicy. Anger. Why is it getting worse? Bargaining. Maybe bread will help. Depression. The bread is also on fire. Acceptance. This is my life now. But then miraculously, it levels out. Somewhere after the initial combustion, the chili starts to reveal its layers. You taste the cumin, the smoky undertow of paprika, the whisper of garlic hiding behind a wall of cayenne. The beans. Yes, there are beans, sturdy, firm, brave. And the meat. Well, you think it's meat. It could also be your soul. It doesn't just burn your tongue. It burns memories. Childhood birthdays. Old romances. Entire towns vanish behind the heat. You sip water. Mistake. It only spreads the fire like gossip. A man next to you mutters, "The only cure is more chili." You believe him. There's no consistency in texture, just in mood. Sometimes you get a spoonful of molten brick. Other times a surprise soft potato sneaks in, like a mercy hug from a kitchen ghost. Then a slice of something green. Was that a pepper? Or just danger with a skin? You keep going spoon after spoon, because by now you're not eating. You're competing against the chili, against yourself, against the ceiling fan that's spinning faster just to cope. The cook is watching, always watching. He doesn't smile. He doesn't blink. He just waits for that moment when someone asks for milk. No one dares. There is no milk. There's only more chili. Someone tries to order whiskey to numb the burn. The bartender gives them a look that says, "Son, you're already in hell." No sense drinking lighter fluid. Your lips tingle. Your eyes water. Your spine sweats. You begin to remember things you've never experienced. Was that the Battle of San Jacinto? Are you speaking Spanish now? And yet, you keep going, because somewhere in the pain is truth. Chili doesn't lie. It doesn't pretend to be comfort food. It's confrontation food. You come to it soft, and you leave it forged. Halfway through, you make peace with the fire. You become it, a being of heat and beans. You feel every bite, every flavor, every bad decision. And it's glorious, because for the first time all week, your food doesn't just warm you or fill you. It awakens you. You see things clearly now. The dust on the floorboards, the way the lantern flame dances like it knows your secrets. The cook's missing tooth, was it always missing? Or did he bite the chili once too? You finish the bowl. Not because you're still hungry, but because anything left behind might multiply. You scrape it clean. The final spoonful is less food and more victory. And when it's done, when the sweat has dried and the bowl is empty, you don't clap. You don't cheer. You just sit there breathing like a man who wrestled lightning and lived. Someone hands you a piece of cornbread, wordlessly, like a peace offering. You nod. It's sweet, soft yellow like forgiveness. And then you hear it. From the back room, the soft clang of iron, the bubbling hiss of something being fried, the whisper from a nearby table, tomorrow's griddle cake day. Your stomach panics. Your soul prepares. And your spoon, still trembling in your hand, twitches once more. You swore you wouldn't eat again. After chili night, your mouth needed therapy. Your stomach considered a union. Your sweat glands filed for early retirement. But then came the whisper. Griddle cake day. It's not shouted. It doesn't need to be. Just 3 soft words passed around the saloon like sacred scripture. Even the floorboards seem to creak with extra sweetness. A gambler puts down his cards. A brawler pauses mid-fight. The bartender polishes a glass with actual care. Griddle. Cake. Day. You blink once. Twice. It sounds so gentle. So innocent. After beans, stew pork, and chili, your body craves something kind. Something golden and soft. Something that doesn't try to test your soul. The cook appears with a pan in one hand and batter in the other. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't smile. But for the first time, there's a flicker in his eyes. Not joy. Not pride. No something more dangerous. Hope. He ladles the batter with reverence. It hits the iron griddle with a sizzle that sings. You don't know what's in it. You don't care. It smells like childhood, even though your childhood was mostly mud and raccoons. The first cake lands on your plate like a cloud wearing a hat. It's round, it's golden, it glistens, it jiggles. You stare at it in disbelief. Could something in this town be gentle? You dig in. The edge is crisp, lightly toasted by a pan that's seen both war and weather. The inside soft, spongy, slightly sweet, a hint of salt, a whisper of smoke, and butter. Real. You dare not ask. You're not ready for that kind of hope. Then comes the syrup, not poured drizzled. It's dark, slow-moving, and smells like melted patience, possibly molasses, possibly magic. Either way, it clings to the griddle cake like it's afraid to leave. The first bite is pure betrayal. Not because it's bad. No. Because it's too good. It's tender, fluffy, sweet in a way that makes your molars weep softly. And after the emotional trauma of chili night, this feels manipulative. You chew slowly, suspiciously. Surely something is wrong. This town doesn't do comfort. It does grit. It does brine. It does meat that stares back. But this is pillow food. The kind you eat when your heart is tired. The kind you serve to children or ghosts or lonely men who finally come home. Your second griddle cake is even better. The edges curl up just a little, like it's smiling at you. The syrup pools gently. You tip the plate to catch every drop like it's liquid gold. Then comes the third, and something changes. Your teeth catch on something. Crunchy. You pause. Inside, hidden like a secret bacon bits. Tiny, charred, salty. The cook catches your eye. You've been tricked. This isn't dessert. This is breakfast with a vendetta. Every third bite hides something unexpected. A sliver of jalapeno, a cube of ham, a rogue onion caramelized to the point of seduction. The sweetness draws you in. The salt keeps you. You realize too late, this is the most dangerous meal of all, because it pretends to be safe. Griddle cake day isn't an act of mercy. It's camouflage. A break in the storm before the next cannon fires. The saloon has lulled you into softness just to make the next meal hit harder, and you let it gladly. Because in this one shining morning, where sun filters through dirty windows, where cowboys chew slowly, and even the piano plays in tune, you feel a thing you haven't felt in weeks. Peace. You mop up the last streak of syrup with the corner of a cake that's lost its structural integrity. You finish your coffee, black, slightly burnt, perfect, and you sit there. Content. Betrayed. Whole. Outside horses shuffle. Dust lifts. The desert holds its breath. Inside, you hear the rattle of something new. Metal. Wet. Heavy. From the kitchen comes a word no one dares repeat. You hear a whisper. Liver night. You freeze. Your spoon trembles. The syrup turns cold. Tomorrow, it begins again. You should have left after the griddle cakes. You should have tipped your hat, wiped the syrup from your lip, and vanished into the horizon like a man who survived something holy. But no, you stayed. And now, it's liver night. The phrase alone sends a hush through the saloon, the kind of silence that creeps into a funeral when someone mentions who brought the casserole. You sit still, unsure if you should run or chew your own boots. The cook doesn't announce it. Liver night doesn't need an introduction. It arrives like a guilty memory, uninvited, uncomfortable, and somehow smelling faintly of iron. There's no menu, no choice. The food arrives in waves, a plate steaming, a smell haunting. You try not to breathe through your nose. The first thing you notice is the color somewhere between betrayal and dried regret. It's brown, but not confidently. More like a brown that's trying to be gray, but got interrupted. The texture glistens in patches, some wet, some suspiciously dry, like it can't decide if it's food or punishment. You poke it with a fork, it jiggles, then holds, like a handshake from someone who doesn't trust you. Your first bite is cautious. You aim for a small corner. Maybe the edges are safer. They're not. Your mouth fills with a taste that isn't quite meat and isn't quite memory, but something in between. It's earthy, metallic, sad, like biting into an apology that never came. You chew. It doesn't help. Liver is not a flavor. It's an event, one that happens in your mouth and then sets up camp in your sinuses. You remember every decision that led you here, including staying past griddle cake day. You consider praying, but even your prayers would taste like liver now. Next to it on the plate is a scoop of mashed potatoes. At first, you're grateful. A neutral party, a calming presence. But the moment you mix the two, the liver bleeds into the mash, and now it's just spongy betrayal. There are onions, too. Caramelized, allegedly. You want to believe they're here to help. But they've been cooked in the same pan, bathed in the same guilt. They try to comfort you, but all they do is whisper pain in a sweeter voice. A man across the table finishes his plate in silence. He doesn't speak, just slowly buttons his shirt and walks outside like he's heading into war. You respect him. You envy him. You still have half a plate left. The bartender offers no sympathy. He's been through this. You can see it in his eyes, the distant stare of someone who once tried to add hot sauce and only made it worse. You take another bite. It's worse. You try to distract yourself with the cornbread on the side. It's dry, crumbly, useless. It crumbles into your lap like a coward in the wind. You drink water. It turns to liver tea. And yet, you keep eating. Because that's what you do. You eat the pain. You chew through history. You finish the meal, not because you want to, but because you must. Liver night is not about flavor. It's about endurance. About proving that you can sit across from the abyss and still ask for a napkin. When you scrape the last bit from your plate, you don't feel full. You feel hollowed. Like the liver took something from you, something intangible but vital. The cook nods once, just once. It is not approval. It is not pride. It is acknowledgement. You lived. Others didn't. You sit back, the flavor still fighting in the back of your throat. It will linger. Days, maybe weeks. Liver does not leave. It haunts your dreams, your burps, your memories of better meals. And then just as you consider swearing off food entirely, you hear it. A soft bell from the kitchen. A clink of glass jars. The murmur of a familiar word, like the return of a lost friend. Pickle night. You straighten your back. You feel your pulse. You begin to fear again, but also to hope. Because after liver, even vinegar sounds like mercy. You didn't think your tongue would ever forgive you after liver night. You thought all flavors were gone, forever scorched from your memory like a love letter tossed into a campfire. But then it came, like a breeze through an open window, like the first laugh after a long bad day. Pickle night. The words spread like gossip in a one-church town. Whispers, grins, men who haven't spoken in weeks suddenly exchanging knowing nods. Even the old piano in the corner starts playing something vaguely Eastern European and briny. You don't know what to expect. Just the word pickle is enough to send your stomach into joyful confusion. Is it food? Is it a topping? Is it a philosophy? Yes. The cook enters with a crate of glass jars, each clinking like church bells for the fermented. His apron is soaked in vinegar and pride. His eyes gleam with a madness reserved only for alchemists and men who have brined too long. Your plate arrives. There is no main course. There is no centerpiece. There is only variety. Pickled cucumbers, pickled onions, pickled eggs, pickled carrots, pickled beets. Things that used to be green, now glowing neon pink. You stare in awe. The table glistens with tang. You start with the cucumber classic safe. The first bite hits with a sharp, clean crunch. Not soft, not chewy, not gelatinous like liver night's regret. This is different. This is clarity, a vinegary slap to the soul. You flinch, then smile. You're awake. The pickled onion follows subtle and sly. It doesn't scream. It murmurs. It makes promises it might keep. It leaves a soft heat that lingers in your cheeks, like someone complimenting your boots in the middle of a bar fight. Then you try the egg. It looks like a dare, a color not found in nature. Purple, maybe, or gray, or a haunted mauve. You hesitate, but this is pickle night. There's no room for cowardice here. You bite. The outside tastes like vinegar. The inside tastes like history. And the middle tastes like it's seen things. Things you haven't. You chase it down with pickled garlic. The bite is sharp, unrepentant. You lose a layer of enamel. It's worth it. Suddenly, your liver-flavored nightmares start to retreat. The ghosts begin to whisper less. And then, because this is the Wild West, someone brings out the pickled watermelon rind. You stare. You blink. You didn't even know that was an option. It glows faintly in the saloon's flickering lantern light, like a relic from a brighter dimension. You taste it. Sweet. Sour. Crisp. It tastes like a memory you never had, but wish you did. Like biting into childhood, if your childhood had involved more vinegar and fewer feelings. Across the room, the men chew slowly, reverently. No one speaks. Not because it's bad, but because their mouths are busy rethinking everything. This is not food. This is a cleansing. A pickle, you realize, is both preservation and rebellion. A protest against rot. A promise that time doesn't always win. You eat more. You mix them. You stack them. You create pickle combinations that defy culinary law. A pickled beet next to a pickled green bean. Scandalous. A sweet gherkin wrapped around a slice of pickled okra. Illegal in 3 territories. And yet no one stops you. You are free. For once, the saloon is peaceful. No fights, no arguing, just crunching. Even the horse tied out front chews on something suspiciously tart. The bartender pours a drink that's mostly brine. You sip it. Your lips pucker so hard you nearly implode. And still, you go back for more. The cook watches from the doorway. He doesn't smile. He never does. But tonight, he tilts his head slightly. That's his way of saying, "You've done well." Your fingers are wrinkled from pickle juice. Your tongue is vibrating from acidity. And your heart, your broken, chili-soaked, liver-weary heart, feels strangely light. Pickle night doesn't fill you. It resets you. A salty reboot. You wipe your mouth with a napkin that used to be a wanted poster. You lean back in your chair, knowing peace is temporary but welcome. And then, just as the final bite of pickled radish passes your lips, you hear it, the sound of something thick being ladled, a new scent drifting through the saloon air. Warm, brown, familiar, too familiar. A single word follows. Gravy. You should have left after the pickled watermelon rind. You should have risen from your brined rebirth, thanked the culinary gods of vinegar, and walked out into the night like a man redeemed. But you didn't. You stayed. And now, it's gravy night. The word rolls through the saloon like a slow, warm fog. You feel it. Before you hear it somewhere deep in your bones, something loosens. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's cholesterol. There is no menu. There is no choice. Only ladles. Gravy night begins not with food, but with sounds. The slow gurgle from the kitchen. The splat of something being poured into something else. The whisper of a spoon sinking into a sauce that has its own mood. Your plate arrives, or rather, your lake. You search for edges, landmarks, even evidence of solid food. But all you see is gravy, beige brown and unbothered. It pools with the confidence of something that doesn't need a main course. You get the distinct feeling that whatever lies beneath the surface has given up. You take your fork and poke. It disappears into the murk. You pull it back out, unsure what it touched, but it's dripping with warm confusion. You try a bite. It's soft. Too soft. Something bread-like, maybe, or potato adjacent. But it doesn't matter. It's gravy now. Everything is gravy. Once the sauce touches, identity dissolves. Gravy is not a condiment tonight. It is destiny. You scoop again. Another shape, different color. Maybe meat. Maybe vegetable. You don't know. You don't care. The gravy has flattened the emotional landscape of your plate. You are now eating texture and heat. The flavor is familiar, like hugs from a tired aunt who wears too much perfume and has secrets she'll never tell. It's warm, peppery, comforting in a suspicious way. You look around the saloon. Everyone's chewing, slowly, eyes glazed. They are not unhappy. They are surrendered. You take another bite and another. Soon, you stop looking. You eat blindly, like a man digging through memory foam. Time loses shape. You forget what day it is. You forget what shape food used to have. The gravy coats everything your mouth, your fork, your will to question. Even your napkin is soggy. Your glass of water tastes like someone thought about gravy while pouring it. The bartender wipes the counter with a towel that smears instead of dries. You realize gravy night is not just a meal, it's a weather event. You hear a thunk on your plate, a biscuit. Once proud, now drowned. You try to lift it, but it breaks in half steam, escaping like a final breath. You chew slowly. It tastes like it remembers better times. A man nearby leans over and mutters, "Don't fight it." You weren't planning to. There is no salt, no need. The gravy is the seasoning, the philosophy, the entire mood. It lulls you into a place where questions are too chewy to matter. What's in it? Why is it warm and cold at the same time? Why does your stomach feel like it's wearing a quilt made of regret? You don't ask. You dip your spoon deeper. At some point, who knows when the cook adds a final touch shredded cheese? You watch it melt on top, forming a gravy ceiling. It traps heat flavor and a little part of your dignity. And still, you eat. Because what else are you supposed to do? Leave with wet socks and a gravy film on your tongue? No. You lean in. You become gravy. Eventually, dessert arrives. Not pie. Not pudding. Gravy gelatin. You stare. It jiggles. It should not. It's molded into the shape of a cowboy hat. Someone thought this was charming. You take a bite. It's oddly sweet, savory adjacent, like someone tried to apologize using butter and nutmeg. You chew slowly, then swallow with the solemnity of a man making peace with chaos. And finally, it's done. You lean back in your chair, stomach swollen, like a philosophy student's ego heart, pounding softly in a gravy rhythm. You survive. Again. But just as the cook begins to clean, as your mind starts to drift toward escape routes and nap schedules, you hear it. Not a word, a sound, a crack, a snap, the unmistakable music of sizzling oil. Frying night. Oh no. You thought gravy was the end. You thought once the world had been smothered in warm beige surrender, nothing could come after. You believed in a sort of finality, a culinary fade-out. But you were wrong. Because now comes the sound of vengeance. The hiss. The pop. The echo of something being dropped into oil with full intent. It's frying night. The air changes. It smells like heat. Like danger. Like risk dipped in batter. The saloon, moments ago, sticky with slow gravy breath, now crackles with urgency. There is no waiting on frying night. There is only the flick of grease and the metallic clink of tongs choosing your destiny. Your plate lands in front of you with the speed of a bar brawl. It sizzles audibly. It's not warm. It's aggressively hot. You don't recognize anything on it. Every shape has been wrapped, battered, crisped, and possibly threatened. You see golden orbs, spiky triangles, untrustworthy lumps, and something long and curled like a fried serpent. The menu is gone. The labels don't matter. On frying night, the rules are simple. If you can dip it, you can fry it. You pick up what might be a vegetable. You bite. It shatters. The sound is violence. Sharp, unapologetic. The inside is soft, confused, possibly squash. But the outside is armor. You try another. It could be cheese. It might have been cheese once. Now it's molten hope, lava dairy, enrobed in a golden tomb. It burns your tongue. You don't care. You keep going. Someone hands you a fried stick. It's a stick. You chew thoughtfully. It tastes like birch, if birch had been raised in a bar and baptized in lard. It's not good. It's not bad. It's fried. Across the room, a man pulls a fried glove from his plate. He stares at it with quiet awe. He eats it anyway. This is not the time for questions. You dip. Because frying night comes with sauces, so many sauces. Small bowls of confusion. Orange, white, pink, electric, green. They don't come with labels. You try them one by one. One is mayonnaise, but not. One is ketchup, but haunted. One is so sweet it rewrites your childhood. Another is pure regret. You dip again anyway. You are a person of impulse now. Dignity left during pickle night, and then it happens. You find the shrimp. Or what they claim is shrimp. It's curled like a scowl. The breading is furious, spiked, jagged, angry at the ocean. You bite. It crunches so loud the bartender winces. The texture is perfect. The flavor is irrelevant. This is not about taste. This is about winning. You eat faster. You've stopped identifying your food. You just evaluate surface temperature and structural integrity. If it holds shape and doesn't scream, it goes in. The cook appears with a tray. He says nothing. He sets down fried butter. You stare at it. A ball. Perfectly round. Glimmering. You poke it. It leaks. Slowly. Seductively. You take a bite. You immediately regret it. Then you go back for more. Your arteries tremble, but your spirit soars. Butter should not have a shell. And yet here it is. A heart attack with a crunchy exoskeleton. Someone screams, not in pain, in triumph. They've found a fried pickle inside a fried onion ring. It's a combo move. You clap. Because on frying night, we celebrate reckless innovation. Someone tries to fry ice cream. It works. Then it melts. Then they eat it anyway. Another person has a fried marshmallow that's been mistaken for a fried potato and eaten with hot sauce. They seem confused, but okay. You've stopped using utensils. Your fingers are shiny. Your soul is sticky. Even your thoughts crackle. And just when you think it's over, when your teeth are sore from crisp and your lips coated in oil, dessert arrives. Fried pie. Not a pie that's been baked. A pie that's been violently dunked and survived. You bite. The crust explodes. The inside scalds you with molten fruit memory. You cry. You smile. You keep chewing. And as the night slows, as the oil settles, and the music turns back into lazy piano, you sit back. Your mouth is tired. Your stomach confused. Your heart hollow and fried. You think you'll never eat again. But then, from the kitchen, a quiet clink. A sound like glass on glass. A whisper pudding. You hear it like a ghost. A clink. A hush. A word that shouldn't cause fear but does. Pudding. Not said. Whispered. Like a secret. Like a warning. You look around. No one moves. No one speaks. Everyone's full of fried things and shame. And yet, the kitchen glows with a soft amber light. A glow not of heat or oil, but of custard intentions. A bowl appears in front of you. Porcelain. Heavy. You didn't order it. You wouldn't have. You no longer make choices here. You stare down into it. It stares back. This isn't pudding, the way you remember from childhood lunches or questionable buffets. This is saloon pudding. It breathes differently. It doesn't jiggle. It sits. Confident. Dense. Ambiguous. You lean in. It smells like cinnamon and old family secrets, like nutmeg and reckoning. There's a hint of burnt sugar and maybe regret. You can't be sure. You dip your spoon. It's thick, not in a this will be rich kind of way. In a this might fight back kind of way. The surface breaks like velvet armor. Underneath a swirl of cream spice and questionable memory. You take a bite. It's warm. Too warm. It tastes like holidays you weren't invited to. Like affection you're not sure you earned. Sweet, yes, but not the kind that lifts you. The kind that sinks you slowly. Your teeth don't so much chew as surrender. The pudding isn't here to please. It's here to remind you of what you don't know. But you feel it. You try a second bite. You find a raisin. Of course you do. It's not just a raisin. It's a plot twist. It changes the entire scene. Suddenly, this pudding has history, depth, maybe even trauma. You chew slower now like you're reading someone else's diary. Across the saloon, others eat in silence. No laughter, no banter, just pudding. You try to stop, but the bowl is bottomless in spirit, if not in shape. You swear it refills when you blink. Each bite makes you remember things. Nothing specific, just feelings. Regret, yearning. The sensation of being hugged by someone who later sued you. A spoon clatters to the floor. No one moves to pick it up. Because pudding is sacred, a server passes by with another bowl. It's darker. Chocolate, no. Something older. You catch a whiff of bourbon. Maybe coffee. Maybe despair. The label reads, Evening Blend. You look down at yours. Morning regret? You keep eating. Because on pudding night, we don't choose our fate. We accept it. Silently. With sticky spoons. And then you see the sign. Taped to the wall, scrawled in jam. Ask about the cold pudding. You shouldn't, but you do. You ask. The cook appears. No words. Just eyes. He slides over a small bowl, chilled to the touch, filled with something pale and quivering. You taste it. Lemon vanilla ambiguity. It's light, airy, deceitful, because halfway through you hit the core. Molasses. Dark, sticky, dense as guilt. You cough. No one comforts you. This is pudding. You finish the bowl anyway and sit there, alone with your thoughts and a thin film of dairy across your lips. You look around. Some are crying. Others smiling faintly, like they've just spoken to an old lover through food. One man's beard is full of pudding. He doesn't seem to notice. You ask for the check. The bartender laughs. There is no check, he says, just the pudding. You leave the bowl. It's empty, but it isn't. It will never be. You stand slowly, legs weak, heart full of something unnameable. You step toward the door. But before your fingers touch the handle, you hear music, a gentle hum, a clatter of mugs, and a whispered word from the bar breakfast. You were ready to leave. Emotionally, gastronomically, spiritually. But then that word breakfast landed in your ear like a promise and a threat. You turn slowly. The saloon still scented faintly of pudding tears, and molasses confession now pulses with a new smell. Smoke, eggs, bread, and is that vengeance in coffee form? You sit back down. Of course you do. You have no choice. This is how the cycle continues. A plate arrives, unasked for, heavy. You look down. 3 eggs. Scrambled, but in a way that suggests emotional turbulence. A biscuit that looks like it's seen war. And bacon. Not served. Thrown. The eggs glisten. Not from butter. From mistrust. You poke them. They slide back. This is not the breakfast of champions. This is the breakfast of someone who has seen too much. You taste the eggs. They are eggs, but older, not in age, in soul, like they remember things they shouldn't. Maybe they were laid by a chicken who once worked here. Maybe they're just tired. You move on to the biscuit. It's dry, crumbly, proud. It breaks apart like ancient sandstone. It defies butter, laughs at jam. You eat it anyway, because what else are you going to do? Walk out. Not on breakfast day. Someone hands you a mug of coffee. It's black, not dark, black. It doesn't steam. It smolders. You sip. It's bitter, yes, but with undertones of judgment. It tastes like every bad decision you've ever made, condensed into liquid form and heated over the flames of past mistakes. You drink more. You start to like it. It's the kind of coffee that doesn't wake you up, it calls you out. Across the room, someone orders pancakes. A hush falls over the saloon, not because it's unusual, but because the pancakes are a test. They arrive stacked, tall, wobbling, too tall, unnatural. You hear syrup being poured. It echoes like a church bell. The pancakes sag, just slightly, then hold. You cheer internally. You ask for a bite. You are denied. This is breakfast day. It's not about sharing. It's about surviving. You go back to your plate. There's sausage now. You didn't see it before. It wasn't there before. It's appeared, mysteriously, like it had to earn its place. It's spicy. You sweat. You don't stop. Then you notice it a muffin, alone, on a side plate. You pick it up. It's blueberry. You think. You bite. It's corn. You panic. You bite again. It's both. You no longer question things. You just chew and accept, like everyone else. The lights flicker. Someone in the corner breaks a yolk too early. The room sighs. A woman swirls her hash browns into the shape of a face. It looks like her father. She eats it anyway. You laugh. Not out loud, just inside. You're not the same person you were before breakfast. This is not nourishment. This is a reckoning in syrup and salt. You reach for the last bite of biscuit. It's hardened, cooled, set like stone. You bite down anyway. It crumbles in defiance. You swallow your pride and your biscuit at once. And then it's over. A bell rings. The bartender wipes the counter slowly. The smell of egg fades into something else, something deeper. He leans toward you. No menu, just a whisper. Soup's on. You shouldn't. You know this. Everything inside you says you've eaten enough emotional metaphors for one lifetime. But pie's ready isn't an invitation. It's a verdict. You rise, stiffly, as if every egg, every tear, every spoonful of ancestral grief has weighted your joints. You move toward the back of the saloon, through a narrow hallway of swinging doors and quiet sighs. At the end, a table. Round. Again. They're always round for pie. Rectangles are for taxes. This is different. You sit. The plate is already there. The pie sits perfectly centered, not a slice, a whole. Because this isn't about sharing. It's about reckoning. You eye it cautiously. Golden crust. Latticed. Flaky but smug. Like it knows what it is. What you are. You lean in. Steam rises slowly, deliberately. It smells like cinnamon. Apples. Regret. You take the fork. But before you pierce the surface, someone slides a dollop of whipped cream on top. Uninvited, unapologetic. You look up. No one's there. You look back. The cream has begun to melt. Of course it has. Nothing soft survives long here. You cut in. The crust shatters, like old promises. The filling oozes, thick, warm, complicated. You bring the fork to your lips, and suddenly it's all there. Every birthday no one remembered. Every night you left the lantern burning. Every dance you watched instead of joined. This isn't dessert. This is therapy served at 375 degrees. You chew. It's sweet, but not kind. There's spice, nutmeg maybe, or vengeance in powdered form. You eat more. Because of course you do. Because pie doesn't just happen to you. It becomes you. Across the table sits a man with no pie, just a glass of milk. He nods. You nod back. Nothing needs to be said. You both know what this is. You offer him a bite. He declines. His work here is done. Yours isn't. You reach the middle of the pie, the heart, the part most people rush to. But here you hesitate. You can feel it pulsing. Warm, soft, dangerous. You cut carefully. It resists. You push harder. It gives. You taste. It's not apple anymore. It's memory and closure and the strange feeling of forgiving someone who never asked. You set the fork down. You're sweating. Not from heat, from truth. Someone refills your water. You drink. It tastes of lemon and long walks. You don't ask why. You don't need to. The pie is gone now, not eaten, just accepted. You close your eyes. The plate disappears. So does the table. And you. You're back where you began. Only now there's music. Faint. From upstairs. A fiddle. A tambourine. Laughter, maybe. The bartender wipes his hands on a towel, looks at you, and says, "There's dancing tonight." You don't remember standing up. Your legs simply decided. There's no debate, no discussion, just movement. As if your feet have their own past to resolve. The music grows louder as you approach the center of the saloon, no longer a bar, not quite a ballroom. The chairs have been pushed back. The floor has been swept. Someone has lit candles, though no one admits to it. You see the fiddle player first. Wrinkled fingers, eyes closed, playing as if he's remembering a song his grandmother hummed during a war no one won. Beside him, the tambourine woman. Not young, not old. Timeless, like bad luck, and really good gravy. You take your place on the edge of the floor. Others are already moving, but not dancing exactly. More like confessing through ankles. You step forward, and suddenly you are inside the music. The fiddle slides beneath your skin like warm molasses and secret deals. The tambourine rattles near your ribs, and your hips begin explaining things your mouth never could. You spin, slowly at first, then faster, until the room becomes a carousel of sins and sugar. A man in suspenders catches your hand. He doesn't speak. He just nods like an apology in hat form. You dance, together, apart, then together again. Your boots thump against the old wood like ancestral heartbeat, and your arms float like you're trying to hug something invisible but necessary. Across the room, two women spin in slow unison, mirrored regret in gingham skirts. A child claps from atop a barrel. The music shifts. Minor key. Unexpected. You falter for a moment. The man in suspenders lets go. You stumble backward. Alone, but not empty. You breathe. Hard. Sweat drips from your brow like truth. The fiddle stops. The tambourine falls silent. And there's that moment. The kind only saloons and funerals understand. Someone lights a match. It's not clear where or why. But it doesn't start a fire. It just marks the end of something. The bartender reappears. Same towel. Same eyes that look like they've seen people cry into every dish on the menu. He hands you a glass. It's not water. It's not whiskey. It's something in between. You drink and realize it tastes like goodbye. The floor creaks behind you. Someone is leaving. Shoes tapping like the period at the end of a sentence. You turn back to the room. It's dimmer now, quieter. Even the walls seem to have exhaled. You take a final step off the floor. The bartender nods. You nod back. No one speaks. But the fiddle player, still seated, begins plucking a soft lullaby. As you head toward the saloon door, someone whispers behind you. Breakfast starts at dawn. You don't ask who said it. You don't need to. That kind of sentence isn't information. It's a summons. So you stay. Of course you stay. Because something inside you, some tired bone or butterfat soul whispers, you're not done eating your way through this ghost town's emotional buffet. The night sighs. Not dark anymore. Just blue and thoughtful. You drift toward the kitchen. Not because you're hungry, but because dawn has expectations. Inside heat. Heavy, slow-moving heat. Like a sermon you don't believe but can't ignore. The cook is already there. He doesn't look up. He just cracks an egg, lets it sizzle, does it gently. Like it's an apology he's made too many times. You sit. Your chair creaks like it's remembering your father. The table smells of cedar bacon and maybe forgiveness. The egg bubbles, pops, sings. You stare. It's just breakfast. But it isn't. Nothing is just anything here. The cook finally glances your way, says nothing, just slides the plate forward. One egg, perfectly fried, edges crisp, yolk soft, centered like a secret. Beside it, 2 slices of toast, burnt, on purpose. Because sometimes that's what it takes to taste the past without choking on it. There's also coffee, black, hot, older than your regrets. You sip. It burns. You nod. The cook nods back. This is the closest you've ever come to prayer. You take a bite of toast. The crunch echoes. In your mouth. In your memory. Suddenly, you're 12 again, chewing toast while your mother argues with the wind. You eat the egg. It collapses like a soft-spoken goodbye. The yolk runs. So do your thoughts. You keep chewing because chewing is a form of survival. The cook refills your cup. Still no words. Just presence. You respect that. Talking would break something, like a yoke or trust. Another plate arrives, unasked for. Baked beans, smoky, warm, emotional legumes. You spoon them slowly. Each bite, a memory you didn't know you packed. You feel full, not with food, with something quieter, denser. You finish. Push the plate away like a boundary. The cook wipes his hands, looks out the window. The sun is rising, soft, tired, like it also stayed up too late remembering. The saloon begins to stir. Footsteps upstairs, a chair sliding, someone tuning a banjo badly. The cook speaks, low, gruff, like he's not used to words anymore. We don't serve lunch. You nod. It makes sense. Some places are only meant for beginnings and endings. You stand. Your knees creak like floorboards. You glance once more at the kitchen, at the stove, the egg pan still warm, the toast crumbs still scattered. You leave them, because not everything needs cleaning up. You step outside. The air tastes new, like flour, and maybe forgiveness, cooling on a windowsill. Behind you, the saloon exhales, as if it knows you'll be back. Or maybe you never left, but still you wander, because that's what people do. When they're full of something they don't know how to digest, the sun climbs higher. The streets get quieter, not peaceful, just paused. Even the wind seems unsure of its direction. You sit under the old wooden awning outside the saloon. The bench is splintered, but you don't mind. Some things are better when they hurt a little. You try not to expect lunch. You were warned, but your body still ticks like it's waiting for something hot served on tin. Inside the saloon is still. The kind of stillness that feels watched, not haunted, just not alone. You wonder how many people have sat in this same silence, hoping a bell would ring, that someone would yell, "Lunch is up," and suddenly everything would make sense. Spoiler, it doesn't, because here in this town of half-finished thoughts and full plates of memory, lunch is for people with closure. And closure, much like bread, doesn't rise on command. You wander again, past the church with no roof, past the post office that only receives letters, past the general store that sells things no one buys, but everyone needs. Eventually, you find yourself at the edge of town, where the road stops pretending to be a road and just becomes dirt with opinions. You see a table, wooden, uneven, set for one, a single plate, empty, a fork beside it, also empty. No one sits there, but you do, because maybe that's what lunch is here, a seat at the table of the unsaid. You stare at the plate, and the plate stares back. It offers you nothing, and yet you begin to remember tastes you never had. Cornbread that made you cry, stew that forgave you, pickles that reminded you of someone who left, but still writes you in dreams. Your stomach growls, but not for food, for recognition, for someone to say, "You were here, you mattered, you had lunch once, and it was good." But no one comes, except the wind and a tumbleweed that rolls by like it's late for an appointment. You sit a while longer, long enough for the sun to tilt, for shadows to stretch like they're warming up for the evening's drama. Eventually you stand. You leave the empty plate, because that's not your job. Your job is to carry the hunger, not for lunch, but for what it represents. Connection, rest, a moment where nobody wants anything from you, except maybe to pass the salt. You walk back to town. The saloon still stands, leaning, breathing, waiting. You don't go inside. You just nod. And in some strange way, it nods back. No lunch, but still, something was served. You wander back toward the saloon, not because you expect anything new, but because you don't know where else to be when the afternoon forgets your name. The air has that slow, sticky quality, like molasses in a prayer. Not hot, just thick. Like something is about to happen, but forgot what. The saloon door creaks open for you, not dramatically, just enough to say, "Yeah, fine, come in if you must." You do. Inside, it's darker than you remembered. Or maybe you've just changed since morning. The room smells like wood regret and something sweet that's almost entirely burned away. You sit, same spot, same you. Almost. You look around. There are no clocks here, no ticking, no minutes passing like footsteps in church. Just time stretched thin, draped across furniture like a coat no one wants to wear. Someone coughs upstairs. The piano groans, but no one touches it. You think about ordering something what you don't know. There's no lunch. That much is clear. But maybe there's a drink, or a whisper, or a story disguised as a beverage. The bartender, he wasn't there this morning, was he? You're not sure. Time has gone sideways. He nods at you. Not like he knows you. Just like he accepts your existence. For now, you raise a finger not to ask for anything, just to acknowledge the ritual. He pours something amber, serves it in a glass older than your patience. You take a sip. It's not good, but it's honest. Tastes like furniture polish and memories you weren't ready to remember. You cough. He nods again. This is how afternoons here are handled. No lunch, no talk, just mutual endurance. A man sits 2 stools down. He looks like someone you should recognize, but your memory refuses to cooperate. He says, "You ever chew on silence?" You pause, not because of the question, because of the tone. Like he's asking about an old dog. You nod. Hurts the jaw, he says. But sometimes it's all there is. You both drink. In silence, of course. Outside, the sky flattens into that strange color between regret and surrender. You wonder if the day is over, or just deciding not to continue. More people drift in, but they don't speak. They just sit, or stare, or hum tunes that don't go anywhere. There's a woman by the window, sketching something invisible. Her pencil never touches the page. Still her brow furrows with the weight of unseen lines. Behind her, the stove clicks. Not on, not off, just clicks, like it's trying to remember fire. The bartender wipes the same spot on the counter over and over, not cleaning, just remembering the shape of work. You finish your drink. It finishes you back. Something in you folds quietly, like a napkin that's been used one too many times. You think about leaving, but your feet don't listen anymore. They're not loyal to logic now. They belong to something deeper. Maybe the floor. The man beside you leans close. You know what time it is. You shake your head. No one does, he says. That's the trick. He sips again. You stay long enough the afternoon forgets you were ever part of the morning. You nod. Because that feels true in a way you don't want to examine. The woman sketching hums louder. A child appears at the back, dirty face, wide eyes, holding a spoon. He doesn't speak, just clutches the spoon like it holds the secret to being seen. No one stops him. No one notices but you. You offer him a smile. It bounces off. Not rejected, just unnoticed. You don't take it personally. In this place, even your smile has its own ghost. You glance at the mirror behind the bar. It doesn't show you. It shows the version of you that used to ask for things. You miss them. That version. They were braver, hungrier, foolish enough to expect dessert. The bartender clears his throat, points to a sign you hadn't noticed before. It reads, "No promises after 3 p.m. You check your watch. It stopped, or never started. Either way, you're well past the hour of hope. Someone lights a lantern, but it's not for light. It's just for company. You understand? Your glass is refilled. You didn't ask, but you drink anyway. Because maybe the afternoon still wants to say something. It just doesn't have the words. You close your eyes, not to sleep, to remember, and maybe to forget a little too. You think of lunches that once existed, of tomatoes still warm from the sun, of soft bread with fingerprints, of someone laughing with their mouth full. You think of how sunlight used to fall on a different table, in a different life. You open your eyes. The saloon hasn't changed. But maybe you have. You stand, slowly, like someone trying not to wake a memory. The bartender nods again. This one feels final. You step out into the street. The light has shifted. Not darker, just quieter. You walk, past the plate you didn't eat, past the wind that never arrived, past the names you've forgotten on purpose. You don't know where you're going, but you trust that your feet do. Because sometimes the only map you need is the ache in your chest when you pass the place that used to feed you. And that ache, it's enough. Evening arrives, the way a bill slides across the table, slow, deliberate, and full of things you don't remember ordering. The sun doesn't set here. It recedes like someone leaving a party they were never really invited to, slipping behind distant hills with the kind of resignation that only comes from having seen it all before. Shadows stretch across the saloon like debts no one plans to settle. You don't ask what time it is. That ritual has lost meaning. Time here is not measured by clocks, but by the size between footfalls, the weight of the air, the number of times someone glances at the same corner of the room, hoping for a different ghost. You drift back to the saloon, not out of need, but gravity, the emotional kind. There's no hunger now, just an ache that wants company. The door greets you with a groan, less mechanical, more emotional, like it's tired of pretending to be anything but a threshold to nowhere. Inside the room is dim, but not dark. The lanterns don't offer light so much as intention. They burn, because stopping would feel too much like giving up. You sit again, different chair, same story. The bartender nods before you say anything. He places a glass in front of you, filled with something that looks like memory, diluted with doubt. You drink it anyway. It tastes like rain on rust. Around you, the room fills with people who may or may not be real. A woman in a velvet dress speaks to no one, mouthing words like she's rehearsing an apology for something she hasn't done yet. A man with a banjo plays a song only he can hear. The strings are broken, but the rhythm continues, stitched together with stubbornness and a kind of musical hallucination. You watch not for entertainment, but for alignment, trying to find where your evening overlaps theirs. Outside, the wind picks up. It doesn't howl. It negotiates with doors, with shutters, with the bits of you you've left in the street. Inside, everything breathes slower. Conversations don't happen here, they ripple. Eye contact lasts a little too long or not at all. Laughter breaks out once, from the far table, sharp and short, like someone dropped a glass made of feelings. You think of dinner, not because you want it, but because evening used to mean something. Used to be mashed potatoes with butter, like forgiveness. Used to be stew that clung to your ribs, like promises you believed back then. Used to be the quiet joy of cutlery against tin. Now it's just another drink and silence thick enough to butter your regrets with. The bartender wipes a spot that's already clean. You recognize the gesture. It's the same one you use when someone asks how you're doing, and you say, "Fine," while wringing your hands under the table. A man enters, unfamiliar, but instantly known. He carries a ledger, not a big one, just enough to contain what people owe when they forget to be kind. He sits at the bar and places the ledger down without opening it. Still, the room shifts. You feel the pull of unspoken balances. The woman in velvet stops mouthing her apologies. The banjo man misses a beat. The bartender stares at the man, then at you, then pours another round. You don't ask. This isn't a place for questions. The man with the ledger doesn't speak, but somehow everyone remembers what they forgot to forget. You feel it in your bones, the whisper of things you once said, with your mouth full, the echo of promises made over gravy, the guilt baked into every slice of pie you never finished. He writes nothing, yet the page seems heavier. You wonder what your entry looks like, if it's written in red or crossed out with mercy. The lights flicker, not from electricity, but from doubt. Outside, the moon rises like an unpaid tab, bold and bright, and entirely too honest. Someone plays a harmonica. The note bends like truth told sideways. A woman weeps in the corner, not because of sadness, but because the evening remembered her name and said it out loud. You finish your drink. The bartender doesn't ask if you want another. He knows the answer lives in your posture. You stand slowly, the weight of evening clinging to your spine like a coat you forgot wasn't yours. The ledger man watches you eyes, calm, not judging, just witnessing. You nod. He doesn't return it. That somehow feels fair. You step outside. The street looks different now. Not quieter, just more honest. The shadows aren't hiding. They're resting. The buildings lean with exhaustion, not age. And the stars, they don't twinkle. They peer, like old friends who remember every late-night story you swore was a secret. You walk, not away, not toward, just forward. Past the place where lunch never came, past the bench that still holds your shape, past the table where you imagined a second chance as a slice of cornbread. The air is thick with the taste of almost. You take a deep breath, and it fills your chest with everything that was not said but understood. Evening doesn't end here. It lingers, like debt, like flavor, like love that never quite made it to the table. You don't say goodbye. That's not how tabs are closed in places like this. You just keep walking, knowing that someday, maybe years from now, you'll wake up with the taste of this night still on your tongue, and you'll know. You were here, you stayed for the silence, and you left with something that doesn't need a name. You wake up with a mouthful of dust and the memory of flavor. Not taste flavor. There's a difference. Taste is physical. Flavor is metaphysical. Taste goes away with water. Flavor lingers like regret dressed in molasses. You're on a floor wood, splintered, warped, and older than the stories told over it. You can't remember walking here, but your boots lie by the door pointing outward, like they were trying to leave without you. The air smells like sawdust, rusted nails, and something faintly familiar barbecue smoke from 3 days ago, or the scent of a question never answered. You sit up slowly, every vertebrae clicking like a jukebox trying to play the wrong song. Light trickles through cracks in the wall strips of sun, slicing through shadow like bad decisions through good intentions. It's not morning, it's aftermath. The kind of time that doesn't have a name because it doesn't need one. Around you, the warehouse breathes. It has its own rhythm, wood creaking softly wind, whispering secrets from corner to corner, a single can rolling somewhere in the distance like punctuation without a sentence. You stand, eventually, because the floor starts telling you stories you're not ready to hear. Your legs remember more than your head. They walk you to the window, or what used to be one. Through the broken slats, you see the saloon in the distance, half lit, still open, because of course it is. Saloon hours aren't hours, they're conditions, states of mind. You don't go back, though. Not yet. Instead, you open a door you didn't know was there and step into a hallway made of yesterdays. On the wall hangs a sign, old and peeling, soup served when the wind allows. You nod. That makes sense. Everything here is weather permitting. You pass a shelf lined with old canned goods, labels faded contents, suspicious. One can reads emotional support beans. Another says simply, hope salted. You're not hungry, but your hands reach out anyway, brushing against the tin, like it might remember being wanted. You find a small table, on it a bowl. Empty, but warm. That's the thing about soup here. It doesn't need to exist to be served. You sit and pretend to eat. It helps. The spoon moves like forgiveness, slow and repeated. Each bite non-existent, but oddly satisfying. You remember a woman once told you soup is just edible silence. You never disagreed. Behind you, a radio crackles on with no one touching it. A voice smooth as peanut butter on regret begins to tell a story about a man who tried to grow tomatoes in the desert. You listen, not for the story, but for the spaces between the words. That's where the real meaning always hides. After the broadcast ends with a gospel song hummed by someone who clearly doesn't believe you rise, your boots are on now. They did come back. You step outside into a sun that no longer tries to convince anyone. It just is. The dirt road back to town is lined with signs from other times. Free coffee for liars. Apology pie, now half off. This way to the disappointment fair. You follow them not for direction, but for companionship. Along the way, you pass a man selling spoons. Just spoons. No context. No explanation. You buy one. It's slightly bent, like it's already lived through your next mistake. He thanks you without looking up. You nod, slipping the spoon into your pocket, like a talisman against whatever's coming. The saloon grows larger the closer you get, which is wrong. It should be the opposite. But that's how memory works, expanding to fit the emotions you forgot you had. When you arrive, the door opens before you touch it. You nod at it like an old friend who still remembers your worst joke. Inside, things have shifted. The room is darker, but not unwelcoming. There's soup now. Real this time. Or at least physical. It steams on the bar in bowls that don't match. The bartender gestures for you to take one. You do. It tastes like root vegetables and difficult decisions. You eat it all, even the part that feels like apology. Around you, the usual people sit in unusual places. The banjo man has moved to the rafters. The woman in velvet now tends the fire, muttering recipes instead of apologies. The man with the ledger is gone, but in his place is a mirror, cracked, reflecting only the parts of you didn't bring today. You finish your soup. You feel better. Not good, just better. Like a wound that's scabbed, not healed. You thank the bartender, not with words, but with a look that carries the weight of many unfinished meals. He nods. He's fluent in that language. Outside again, the light has changed. Evening is not here yet, but it has RSVP'd. You walk toward nothing, in particular, guided by the wind, which now smells like baked bread and missed chances. At your hip, the spoon bumps gently with every step. A reminder, you carry it not to eat, but to remember how it felt to need. Far behind you, the saloon exhales its door swinging gently, as if waving goodbye to someone who hasn't quite left yet. You walk toward the edge of the town, past the wind-bent fence posts and the telegraph wires that hum with secrets no one bothers to decode anymore. There's a space behind the abandoned livery stable where grass once tried to grow, but gave up where horses used to stomp and whinny and stare at the horizon like it owed them something. Now, it's just silence and a dented cauldron over slow coals tended by a man who may have been there since the sky was born. He doesn't look up as you approach. He's busy stirring something too thick to be called soup and too sorrowful to be called stew. It's chili, but not the kind from menus or memory. This is the kind made from leftover emotions, regret, abandonment, betrayal, rendered down with pinto beans and bitterness. He gestures toward a wooden bench that sags in the middle like it remembers everyone who's ever tried to sit without saying what they meant. You sit, not because you're hungry, but because it feels like you're supposed to. The man ladles the chili into a tin bowl. It steams like it's trying to hide what it's made of. You don't ask questions. That's not what this place is for. You take a bite. It tastes like everything you thought you'd moved on from. Smoky, sharp, a little too hot, like a conversation that went sideways and never came back. The beans are overcooked. The meat's either venison or memory, hard to tell which. You keep eating. Not because it's good, but because it's honest. Most chili's made with tomatoes, the man says, without looking at you. But this one uses silence. You nod. That tracks. He adds, sometimes I throw in a little hope, but only if I'm feeling reckless. You glance down at your bowl. You hope he wasn't feeling reckless today. You're not sure you could handle that. Behind him, there's a crate full of spices that aren't labeled, just little jars with faint smells and big histories. He picks one up and sprinkles a bit into the pot. The air changes. Not the smell, the temperature of the memory around you. Like something in your past just blinked. You don't know what it was, but you feel its absence now. This one's called What Might Have Been, he mutters. Pairs well with beans soaked in apology. You're not sure if you should laugh or cry. You do neither. You just keep eating. Around you, the wind picks up curling like a stray dog looking for scraps. The trees beyond the fence shake like they're trying to forget something. Someone across the prairie yells, but it's too far to matter. In this corner of the world, only what's in the bowl counts. You ask the man where he learned to cook like this. He shrugs. From someone who forgot how to leave. You wonder if he means a person or a feeling. Then you realize it doesn't matter. They're the same thing out here. A silence falls between you, but it's not uncomfortable. It's the kind of silence that feels full, like the air has been seasoned just right. You finish the bowl, set it down. It feels heavier now than when it was full. The man nods. That's normal. Chili like this adds weight, not just warmth. Want another helping? He asks. You shake your head. You're already carrying too much. He gets it. He's not offended. He starts stirring again. You watch the pot bubble thick and dark and full of stories that'll never be told right. You ask him if he ever serves this chili in the saloon. He snorts. Too real. Folks come to the saloon to forget. This stuff makes you remember. That makes sense. There are foods for forgetting and foods for remembering. This is the latter. You glance around the lot. Once horses kicked up dust here. Now, only tumbleweeds dare pass through. The ghosts of saddles and spurs linger like old songs in the corners of your eyes. You think about all the meals you've had that lied to you. This wasn't one of them. You thank the man. He nods again. You don't need to pay. You already did years ago when you walked away from someone you shouldn't have. This chili just collected the bill. You stand. Your stomach is full in that strange way, not with food, but with knowing. The kind of full that makes you walk slower because your thoughts are heavy and dragging their heels. As you leave, the man tosses another log under the pot. The flames flare like old anger, then settle into steady orange truth. He starts humming a tune with no melody. It sounds like someone gave up halfway through a lullaby. You don't look back. That's not how this meal works. You walk away with the taste of unfinished conversations on your breath and the realization that some hunger isn't meant to be satisfied, only named. The road curves back toward town, but the town doesn't quite look the same. Maybe the building shifted while you were gone. Maybe you did. On your left, a crow picks at something you hope isn't metaphorical. On your right, a signpost reads, "Emotional leftovers this way." You nod, pocket your hands, and keep walking. The wind carries a faint scent of cinnamon and something burning. Maybe the next meal will be sweeter. Maybe not. Either way, it's waiting. The moon is heavy tonight, like it's been listening to too many stories and doesn't quite know where to store them. You wander back toward town, with your thoughts dragging behind you like a coat soaked in river water, and regret. You don't head straight for the saloon this time. Instead, something pulls you toward a window, one you've never noticed before, or maybe one you've always ignored. It's cracked open, just enough to let out the scent of apples, cinnamon, and disappointment. The kind of disappointment that comes from baking too late and realizing no one's coming to eat. Inside, there's a pie on the windowsill. Not a showy pie, no lattice crust or sugared top. Just honest pastry brown, around the edges slumped like it gave up halfway through rising. There's a note pinned beside it, but the inks run like tears, so you pretend it says nothing. You could leave. That would be polite. That would be expected. But politeness isn't the currency here. Hunger is. And this town owes you something sweet, even if it's laced with sorrow. You sit on the stoop like a stray dog, hoping not to get chased off. The window creaks, but no one appears. The pie waits cooling, watching knowing. You reach in and take a slice. It's still warm underneath, like it's holding on to the memory of hands that shaped it. The crust is too thick in places, and paper thin in others, an unevenness that tastes human. The apples are soft, not mushy, as if they've heard enough harsh words and decided to go gentle. There's a bitterness in the spices that wasn't in the recipe. You chew slowly, respectfully. Some pies are baked for joy, some for tradition. This one was baked to remember someone who doesn't come around anymore. You eat anyway, not to honor them, but because forgetting is harder than it looks. Behind you, the town murmurs in its sleep. The saloon doors sway slightly, though there's no wind. You imagine old laughter trapped in the hinges. The pie gives up a raisin. You weren't expecting it. You chew like you meant to. Someone once told you raisins are just grapes that lost their illusions. You believe it now. You finish the slice. Your mouth feels full of farewells. You reach for another. The window creaks again, louder this time. A shadow shifts behind the curtain. Maybe they're watching. Maybe they baked it and left the window open on purpose. Maybe they hoped someone would come eat it and carry their longing away. Maybe they hoped it'd be you. Or maybe the pie was for someone else, someone who didn't show up, and now you're just the understudy for a moment that never happened. You don't know. You don't ask. You just eat. The second slice tastes different, sharper, like the crust remembers an argument and the filling is trying to smooth it over. A drizzle of honey attempts forgiveness, but gets drowned in clove. You chew through someone's attempt at closure. It crumbles as closure often does. A chair scrapes inside the house. Footsteps pause near the window. The curtain doesn't move. You say nothing. Neither do they. This is the Wild West after all. Words are expensive. Pauses are free. The pie tin is half empty now. You place your hand flat against the wood of the sill. It's warm, either from the pie or the person who placed it there. You pretend not to care which. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve. You're wearing your appetite like a second skin now. Not just for food, for meaning, for ritual, for crumbs that lead somewhere. You rise slowly. The sky's deeper now. More stars. Fewer answers. The wind has stopped trying to move things. It's just observing. You leave a coin on the sill. Not as payment, just as punctuation. Behind you, the window closes with a sigh. Not a goodbye. Just an exhale. You walk back to the saloon. Your footsteps sound different now, like they're trying not to disturb something that hasn't healed yet. You push open the doors. Inside, the piano's silent. The whiskey glows untouched. The bar stools look tired of holding people who aren't sure who they are anymore. You sit anyway. The bartender nods. He doesn't ask where you've been. He can smell the pie. He pours you something amber and dangerous. You drink slowly. The warmth in your throat is different than the warmth from the pie. This one demands something. The pie just offered. You swirl the glass. Think about cinnamon, about the sound pastry makes when you crack it with a fork, about how some recipes only exist once burnt on purpose, shared by accident, remembered through flavor. The saloon clock ticks, though you're not sure it's right. Time's been slippery lately. You think about the person behind that window. Did they watch you eat? Did they hope you'd knock? Or were they afraid you would? The drink's gone. You don't remember finishing it. The bartender refills it without asking. That's his version of kindness. You nod. That's yours. In the corner, a couple argues over a card game they're not actually playing. Their voices rise, not in anger, but in memory. You sip again. This is the kind of night that bends without breaking, that offers nothing and everything if you sit still long enough. Your stomach isn't full, but your spirit is. Or maybe it's just heavy. Hard to tell the difference anymore. The pie was real. The hunger, too. The taste lingers like an apology that doesn't quite land. You lean back. Let the glass sweat in your hand. The saloon breathes around you. Behind your eyes, a sliver of pastry flakes apart one bite at a time. Maybe you'll find that window again. Maybe not. But now you know it's there. And sometimes, just knowing is enough. You wake up before the sun does, which feels rude. The sky is still the color of tin and cheap whiskey. The town is quiet in the way that suggests it's not ready to forgive whatever happened last night. You step outside and your boots scuff up yesterday's dust like it still matters. You follow the scent before you remember what hunger feels like. It curls from behind the saloon down the alley where empty barrels sleep and broken chairs go to die. The smell is ancient, and holy onions bones something green and mysterious, and that deep salty promise only broth can make. There's a pot over fire behind the kitchen door, large enough to baptize your regrets in. No one guards it. That's either an act of faith or exhaustion. You sit on a crate that once held something precious, now it holds you. The pot sighs. Bubbles mutters something in a dialect only tired people understand. The soup is simple. You can tell without tasting it. There's no bravado in the aroma. No show-off spices. No clever swirl of cream. Just heat vegetables that forgot their pride and meat that's too stubborn to stop giving. This is soup for the hungover, the heartbroken, the ones who can't afford another mistake, but know they'll make one anyway. You look around. No one else is here yet. That feels wrong. This soup wasn't made for solitude. It was made for sharing, for the kind of silence people have when they've seen too much together. You reach for the ladle. It's wooden worn smooth by 100 mornings like this. The soup clings to it like a child reluctant to leave bed. You pour some into a tin cup you find nearby. It burns your fingers and your tongue like it's punishing you for being too early. You drink anyway. You always do. The first sip is mostly broth, thin salty, and warmer than anyone in this town has ever been to you. It tells you you're still alive. Not in a hopeful way, in a factual, slightly disappointed way. The second sip has a carrot. It's too soft, but it holds shape. Like someone who cried last night, but still put their boots on. The third sip finds a bit of meat, stringy seasoned, only with regret and time. You chew it carefully. The soup fills the cracks in you, not to fix them, just to let you know they're still there. Behind you, footsteps. Someone else has followed the scent. They don't speak. Neither do you. The ladle dips again. Another cup fills. Two people sipping in silence. This is communion. Not the church kind, the kind where nothing needs to be said because everything already has been. More arrive. One by one. No one talks. They just drink. The soup makes room. It always does. No one knows who made it. The cook is either sleeping or dead, or watching from a distance, proud and weary. Or maybe the soup made itself out of the leftovers of 100 forgotten dinners and the whispers of all the things no one dared say. A dog shows up, a real one, skinny, silent, serious. Someone pours soup into a chipped bowl and sets it down. The dog licks it like it's remembering something important. An old man coughs. A woman nods. The sun peeks over the roof, embarrassed. The soup doesn't care. It keeps simmering. You dip again. This cup has a surprise potato butter soft, cradling a clove of garlic like a secret. You bite in, and the flavor explodes like a memory you didn't know you had. You think of home. You think of the time before you learned how sharp spoons could be when you hold them too tightly. You think of someone who made soup like this and told you stories that made no sense but felt safe. You eat faster, not because you're hungry, but because you don't want the story to end. Around you, people shift. Someone lights a cigarette out of habit, then forgets to smoke it. A woman hums a tune no one recognizes but everyone understands. The soup thickens slightly like it's eavesdropping and wants to contribute. A boy cries, not loudly, just enough for the steam to notice. No one turns. The soup keeps going. You lose track of time. That's the soup's fault. It bends clocks, turns minutes into memories, and hours into fog. You could stay here forever. You won't, but you could. You take a final cup. Let it cool in your hands, like something you've been waiting for. This one is different. It tastes like goodbye, like the last page of a book that never told you the author's name. You drink slowly. You don't thank the soup. That would be weird. But you stand, and that's enough. Others are doing the same, stretching, nodding, not quite smiling. The pot is low now, not empty, never empty, just quieter. The fire flickers. Someone adds a log. The soup sighs again. You walk away. Your breath smells of onion and truth. Your belly feels like a promise kept. The day begins, and you're part of it now. Not because you want to be, because the soup said so. You step into the sun, which now burns politely instead of accusingly. You hear laughter from somewhere. It doesn't involve you, but it doesn't exclude you either. That's progress. You look back once, just once. The pot still bubbles. The world spins gently. You're full enough for now. And the soup will still be there tomorrow. By the time night folds itself around the saloon like a tired coat, the soup is a memory and your belly is a whisper. The air smells different now. Less of wood smoke and regret. More of something sweet and scorched like apology left too long in the oven. You push open the saloon doors again. They groan a little louder this time. So do you. Inside, the crowd has changed shifts. Morning drinkers have long since melted away, replaced by the quiet ones, the ones who drink not for celebration or despair, but because that's just what you do when the day runs out of excuses. The bartender is different now too. This one has sleeves rolled high and a scar that cuts across his lip like a punctuation mark no one uses anymore. He nods at you as if to say, "Welcome back to the only place that doesn't ask where you've been." You slide into a corner, not your usual one, but one that creaks with the memory of someone else. It smells faintly of cologne and secrets. You order nothing. The bartender brings something anyway, a plate with 2 thick slices of cornbread edges, darkened middle steaming, and a small slab of butter already losing its shape in the heat. You don't ask why. You don't need to. Cornbread is not a meal here. It's a ritual. The first bite tells you everything. It's dry, not in a cruel way, but in a way that makes you pay attention. You have to chew. You have to mean it. The butter helps just enough, not too much. Cornbread here isn't soft. It doesn't yield. It flakes, it crumbles, it resists. Like every person still left in this town after the mines dried up and the horses stopped trusting humans. The crust is nearly black, a little bitter. But behind it, sweetness, like someone trying to be kind for the first time in years. You chew in silence. The saloon hums around you. There's a game of cards in the back, the kind that ends in either laughter or blood. A woman with a braid longer than your past sings something half French, half dream. The piano is out of tune, but that only makes it sound more honest. Someone sets down a whiskey near you. It's not yours, but it is now. You sip. The burn is immediate, like punishment you've earned, but didn't expect so soon. The cornbread is easier to swallow now. There's something about how the char on the crust talks to the fire in the drink. They understand each other. They've both been through it. The second slice is warmer, not in temperature, but in memory. It tastes like something your grandmother would have made if she'd stayed, if she'd believed in softness, if she hadn't married a man who loved silence more than stories. You eat slower, not because you're full, because you don't want the taste to end. Cornbread at this hour feels like forgiveness, gritty, quiet, unsweetened, but still enough. The saloon grows louder as you shrink inward. The cards slap. The laughter sharpens. The piano forgets its place and tries to play jazz. You tune it all out. The cornbread has taken you somewhere else. A porch. A late summer night. Fireflies doing Morse code. The smell of dust and fried fat, and something baking in a tin pan, while someone curses gently under their breath because they added too much milk again. You taste all that. You chew the memory like it's the last one. The bartender wipes down the counter with a rag that remembers better times. He sees you and says nothing, which is the kindest thing he could do. You wonder how many pieces of cornbread have been eaten here. How many confessions have started with, "This is too dry," and ended with, "I never told anyone this before." Because this isn't just bread. This is something else. This is the thing you eat when you don't know what else to say. The thing you serve to someone who just came back from a funeral, or a fight, or a failure. The thing that doesn't ask for thanks, just your teeth and your time. A man sits beside you. He nods at the plate. You slide it toward him. He breaks a piece off, careful not to spill. You watch him chew. His eyes close. Not in ecstasy, just recognition. He knows this taste. It belongs to more than one story. He says nothing. You say less. The two of you sit there breathing the same air, chewing the same stubborn crumbs. The whiskey is gone. You don't remember finishing it. The music slows. The room leans. Someone snuffs out a lamp. The dark folds deeper. You look at the last bite. You save it. Not for later. Just to know it's there. You leave it on the plate, like a bookmark in a chapter you can't read yet. You get up. The man nods again. You nod back. The bartender raises an eyebrow. You lower your head. No one needs to say a thing. The door groans again as you leave. The night air bites, but you've been bitten worse. In your pocket is a crumb. You didn't mean to take it, but it stuck to your hand like memory does. You hold it for a moment, then let it fall. The wind carries it somewhere only ghosts and cooks will find. Behind you, the saloon breathes. Ahead of you, the dust road stretches like a tongue, waiting for another story to chew on. You don't remember how the back door opened, only that it did. Maybe someone left it ajar, or maybe the saloon itself wanted you to see what it's hiding. The hallway leading there is narrow lit only by a trembling lamp that smells of old onions and worse intentions. You pause for a second, as if expecting a sign that says, "Staff only unless you're hungry for truth," but no sign comes. Only the smell. It's richer here, deeper, thicker, like smoke that took up poetry. There's something metallic beneath it too, like someone once cooked sorrow in a skillet and forgot to scrape it clean. The door to the kitchen doesn't creak. That would have been too gentle. It yawns slow and wet, and the air that escapes is alive. Not in a friendly way, not in a haunted way either, just alive. like something that's been thinking too long and needs to exhale. You step inside. The floor is sticky in a way that feels intentional. The walls are lined with pans, so dark they seem to absorb light. Each one has a shape-round oval, dented like a memory no one wanted to keep. The stove is a beast cast iron, ancient with burn marks that look like maps. You can't tell if they're battle scars or blueprints, probably both. And on top of it, a skillet the size of sin. It's hot. You don't know how long it's been heating, but it sizzles with anticipation, as if it knows you're not supposed to be here, and it's choosing whether to punish you or feed you. In the corner, strips of jerky hang like prayers. Not just beef. There's something else, leaner, spicier. Maybe venison. Maybe confession. The cook is there. Of course he is. He doesn't look up when you enter. Just stirs the pan with a wooden spoon that's lost all edges, as if it's been used to erase mistakes rather than mix ingredients. He's tall, thin, smells like sage and coal. His apron is stained in ways that can't all be explained by sauce. You try to speak. Your throat decides against it. He finally looks up. One eye is cloudy, the other sharp. "Sit," he says. You do. There's only one stool. It's missing a leg, so you tilt gently like you're bowing to the meal. "You ever had regret seared in bacon fat?" he asks. You don't answer. He doesn't need one. The pan crackles louder, and the scent changes. Something familiar, not from your life, but from a dream you had when you were 12 and woke up hungry. He plates something, not with flair, with gravity, as if the food has weight beyond weight. It's meat. Dark, thin sliced, curled at the edges, like a letter you burned too late. Next to it, 3 small cubes of fried potato, each one precise golden Sirius. No herbs, no garnish, just heat. "Eat slow," he mutters. So you do. The meat is salty, almost too much. But it wakes you. The kind of salt that reminds your tongue it has stories to tell. The edges are crispy, the middle chewy. There's pepper hiding in there, sharp, confident, unapologetic. This isn't food made with love. It's food made with certainty. The potatoes are quiet in comparison. They don't shout. They hum. Crunch outside, soft inside, like a memory of home, so distant it stops hurting. You ask what the meat is. He smiles. Whatever you need it to be. You don't push further. In this room, questions are seasoning too much ruins everything. He pours something into a tin cup. It steams, but not like coffee. It's thicker and smells like bone and thyme. "Gravy," he says, but not for pouring, just for remembering. You sip. It coats your tongue in smoke and something darker. Not bitter exactly, more like dusk, the kind of flavor that makes you wonder what would happen if you stayed here forever and let the world forget your name. The cook watches you like a judge watches a thief, not with anger, with knowledge. Every dish he says is a decision. You nod, though you're not sure what you've chosen. Maybe you chose to come in. Maybe you chose to chew. Either way, something's different now. The room gets warmer. Or maybe you're just finally feeling the heat that's always been here. The cook moves without sound. He drops something into the skillet, a handful of chopped onion, a glug of grease, a whisper of red powder. The smell rises like a song too sad for lyrics. You're full, but you stay. Not for food, for story. He tells you the skillet came from a widow who used to cook for outlaws and priests without changing recipes, that the jerky once hung in a church rafters to keep it safe from wolves, that the gravy's base is marrow from a cow that saw a comet before it died. You believe every word, because in this place, truth and flavor are the same thing, slippery, slow burning, unforgettable. He offers you one last bite, something small, brown, unassuming. This, he says, is from before you were born. You eat it. It tastes like thunder in the distance, like being seen by someone who knows your worst thoughts and still lets you sit at the table. You thank him. He doesn't respond, just turns back to the stove. You stand. The room seems smaller now, or maybe you've grown. You walk back to the saloon floor. The door closes behind you like a sigh. Outside, the moon is higher, brighter. The night feels different, like it's been seasoned, and in your mouth, the aftertaste of something impossible to name, meet, memory, myth. Whatever it was, it's part of you now. You've eaten the kitchen's truth, and it will never let you forget. You step out the back door like someone exiting a dream they weren't finished with. The saloon's kitchen fades behind you, not just in distance, but in temperature, in volume, in emotional gravity. Outside, the air is looser, almost playful. It's dry in that Western way, but not cruel. The moon is low and round so fat, it looks like it's been overfed on local gossip. You can hear voices, not loud, just enough to feel them under your skin. The kind of murmurs that are both too far to understand and too close to ignore. Then you see it. The fire pit, crude, surrounded by upside-down crates, barrels turned into chairs, and people who look like they've run out of words, but still haven't stopped talking. You can't tell if they're employees or customers who never left. Doesn't matter. Out here, labels peel off like burnt skin. One of them sees you, nods, the kind of nod that's both invitation and dare. You nod back. That's all it takes. You're part of it now. You take a seat on a crate that rocks slightly, like it's had a few drinks itself. Someone hands you a tin plate. On it, an egg. Not scrambled, not fried, baked, whole, shell on. Nestled in ash, its bottom scorched black, its top trembling from heat. You blink. They laugh. You never had a devil's egg. One of them grins. It's not a question. It's an accusation. You hold the warm shell, unsure what to do. Another voice says, "Crack it with your teeth." Like a sinner. You do. Gently at first. Then with commitment. The shell gives. It's soft, not crunchy. The outer layer peels like old paint. Inside, the egg is smoky, custardy, strangely herbal. There's thyme. Or maybe something pretending to be thyme. It tastes like a secret recipe shared during a storm. Around you, the fire pops, sending sparks into the air, like arguments too small to escalate. Someone passes a jug. Not moonshine. Something else. Something sour with a licorice bite and a peppery goodbye. You sip. It burns in a friendly way, like a slap from someone who means well. The egg settles in your gut, like a promise warm solid, slightly dangerous. You look around. No one's talking about work. No one's even pretending to be sober. But there's clarity here. The kind that only happens when everyone agrees to be a little lost together. One man pokes the fire. You know he says we used to bury the eggs for 3 days, then dig 'em up during the equinox. They tasted like earth and regret. A woman laughs. That's just because your mother hated you. He shrugs. Fair. The conversation drifts. From eggs to ghosts, to the price of tobacco, to a man named Elroy, who once cooked a biscuit on his chest during a fever. You don't need to follow. You just need to float. Another egg arrives. This one darker, heavier. You crack it open, and this time, there's something inside, not a yolk, but a coin, warm to the touch, etched with a sun that has too many rays. No one explains. No one needs to. Out here, food isn't just food. It's ceremony. It's dare. It's confession. The man beside you leans in. They say the saloon was built on an old kitchen, a sacred one, fed travelers and outlaws alike. No walls, just fire and forgiveness. You nod. It makes sense. In a way that doesn't need facts. Another sip from the jug. Another egg. This one explodes slightly as you open it. Steam hisses out like a whisper denied. The taste is electric vinegar smoke, something fermented. It makes your eyes water and your mouth remember a song you don't know. Someone plays a harmonica. Badly. Perfectly. It weaves through the smoke like punctuation. You're no longer sure how long you've been here. An hour, a week. Time doesn't obey fire pits. It softens, bends, turns into gravy. The fire roars suddenly. Someone throws in a boot. No explanation. Only laughter. You don't question it. Not anymore. You're too full. Of eggs. Of smoke. Of whatever this is. A kind of communion, maybe. A ritual of those who don't go to church, but still want to be cleansed. A final egg. It's handed to you by someone who hasn't spoken all night. He has hands like dried leather and eyes like candle stubs. The egg is black, completely, charred, but not brittle, smooth, like obsidian. You crack it, nothing inside, just warmth. A kind of void that hums. You hold it for a long time, then hand it back. He nods, takes it, drops it into a pouch, says nothing. The fire begins to die, slowly, with dignity. The group disperses like ash. No goodbyes, just nods. You stand. The sky has changed, the stars sharper. Or maybe your eyes are. You walk back toward the saloon. The door welcomes you like an old blanket. Inside, the air smells of wood and secrets. You sit at your usual table. A glass waits for you. You don't question how. It's warm, tastes like firewood and memory. You close your eyes, not to sleep, to simmer. The eggs still speak in your stomach, not words, just feelings, warnings, invitations, recipes written in reverse, the kind that only makes sense once you've eaten. You smile. You've earned this. You've been baptized in smoke and sulfur. And when you open your eyes, you see the bartender watching. He raises an eyebrow. You nod. He pours another round. The fire pit is gone now, but its heat lingers in your bones. You are no longer just a guest in the saloon. You are part of its menu. And tomorrow, when the eggs return, you'll know which one to choose. You're not sure when you fell asleep, or if you ever really did. The stool beneath you creaks softly, as if reminding your spine that it's been keeping secrets all night. Outside, the desert hasn't decided if it's morning yet. The light through the cracked shutters is more suggestion than reality. Somewhere, a rooster forgets its lines and croaks a note that could be anything from triumph to surrender. You blink the bar into focus. It hasn't changed. Of course it hasn't. Saloon mornings don't evolve, they resurrect. Slowly. Like bread rising in an oven that no longer burns evenly. The bartender's here. Was he always here? Maybe. He polishes a glass with a cloth that looks like it has its own backstory. When he sees you, he doesn't speak, just sets down a ceramic bowl. Inside, a pale sea of condensed milk, thick and cold as forgotten love, with islands of cornmeal biscuits half submerged like broken promises. You stare. He nods. You understand. This is breakfast, or atonement, or maybe both. You pick up the wooden spoon. It's warped slightly, like it once survived a fire and never quite recovered. You scoop the edge of a biscuit. It resists like it's still deciding if it wants to be eaten. Then it gives. The texture is absurdly soft, spongy, but dense. The kind of softness that only comes from neglect, like it was baked 2 days ago and intentionally forgotten until now. You take a bite. Sweet. Too sweet. The kind of sweet that coats your teeth in apology. The milk is cold but thick, more syrup than drink, and it tastes like someone condensed every awkward memory you've ever had and poured it into your mouth. It's not bad, but it's not kind either. Around you, the saloon breathes. Chairs shift themselves. A poker chip slides off a table as if remembering a bet it lost hours ago. A single fly taps the edge of your spoon and decides you're not interesting. You take another bite, this time slower. The biscuit has a hint of smoke, not from cooking, from the air. Everything here is seasoned with smoke, even the sugar, even your skin. You swallow. The bartender pours something into a cup. Steam curls from it like a secret leaving someone's lips. It's not coffee. You know this because it doesn't smell like coffee. It smells like oats and something floral, lavender maybe, or sage. You sip. It's hot and thick and slightly bitter. It tastes like a bedtime story that's been rewritten for someone who doesn't sleep. The bowl of biscuit and milk is nearly gone. The last piece floats like a survivor refusing rescue. You hesitate, then eat it. It falls apart mid-bite, and you chew slowly, deliberately, like you're participating in a ritual older than religion. Across the room, a woman stretches. She's wearing the same dress as last night, but it hangs differently now, like even fabric can feel shame. She doesn't look at you, but she knows you're awake. Everyone in the saloon always knows. The light gets stronger, not warmer, just whiter. The kind of light that highlights the dust, but never the truth. The bartender sets a second bowl beside the first. It's empty, but he places a napkin in it, then a pencil. He says nothing, just walks away. You stare. Slowly, you pick up the pencil. It's dull, used, like it's been chewing thoughts it didn't quite know how to write. You turn the napkin over. There are faint markings, a map, or a recipe, or a memory. A single phrase, written in looping cursive, add salt, only if you're ready to remember. You look up. He's gone. The bar is empty now. The door swings slightly, and the wind smells like warm wood and dry apologies. You take the napkin, fold it twice, slide it into your coat pocket next to whatever else you've forgotten. Behind the bar, a plate of sliced peaches waits. They glisten, not fresh, canned maybe, but real. You don't touch them. They're not yours. Not yet. A shadow moves in the mirror behind the bottles. You turn. No one. Just your reflection blurry from condensation and expectation. Your hair is wilder than you remember. Your eyes are darker, like someone else has been using them. You blink. The peaches are still there. One slice has slid onto the wooden counter. It glows in the light, soft and slow, like a sun rising just for itself. You reach out, touch it. It's cold, sticky, familiar. You eat it. It melts. Your hands tremble. You don't know why. The bowl of milk and biscuit is empty now, licked clean by time. You rise. Your knees creak in protest. The stool says goodbye in its own language. You walk to the window. Outside, the town begins to rustle. A horse snorts. A child yells. A door slams in the distance. The world is trying to remember itself. You stay in the doorway, half in, half out, one foot in memory, one in the possible. You hear a voice, not loud, not urgent, just inevitable. You coming, you turn. It's the woman, the dress still rumpled, her eyes unreadable. You nod, not because you're ready, but because there's no breakfast left, only what comes after. You follow her out the door, into the light, into whatever comes next. You've made it out of the saloon, but the sun isn't kind. It hangs low and lazy like a sheriff with too much paperwork and not enough conscience. The town exhales heat. Everything sweats, even the shadows. You wander, or maybe you drift. It's hard to tell. The streets are made of dust and decisions. Somewhere to your left, a dog barks once, as if warning someone in another life. You turn the corner, and the smell hits you. It's not perfume, but it has that effect. Your pace changes. Not a full stop, but a hesitation. That smell, thick and slow, wraps around your neck like someone who knew you before you started lying. Smoked meat, maybe ribs, maybe brisket, maybe memory. You follow. It's not a choice. It's a gravity. A narrow alley leads to a side door propped open with a horseshoe. Inside, smoke-low ceilings and silence that only comes from mouths too full to talk. A woman behind the counter is slicing something. Her hands move like they've been slicing since before time noticed. You sit. Not because you're invited, because your legs no longer believe in standing. She looks up, then down, then slides you a plate. Nothing fancy. Just a hunk of brisket, the color of forgotten gods' bleeding flavor, onto a scrap of stale bread. There's no garnish, no ceremony. Just heat and promise. You lift the meat. It folds in the middle like it's bowing. The first bite isn't a bite, it's a surrender. Smoke, fat, salt, and silence all melting into something older than language. You close your eyes, chew, and for a moment, your mind goes still. No questions, no regrets, just the chew. The chew is everything. When you open your eyes, there's a mason jar of iced tea in front of you. Amber like secrets. You sip. It's too sweet. Or maybe you are. Either way, it balances the salt. That's all you need. Another slice, another sip. The bread disintegrates under the meat, like even it knows it's just a vessel. You reach for the bone. There isn't one, just tender muscle, and something that might have once been connective tissue, now transformed into edible silk. You don't ask what wood they used for the smoke. You don't need to. It tastes like fence posts from your childhood, like the chair your grandfather died in, like the fire that almost took the barn. It tastes like everything that didn't quite make it to the present. The woman behind the counter wipes her knife and hums something old, a tune with no melody but all the ache. Another customer walks in, doesn't speak, just nods. He gets a plate just like yours, sits beside you. You don't talk. He doesn't either. But you chew in the same rhythm, and that's enough. Time passes, the kind of time that doesn't count toward your life. Outside, a church bell rings, even though there's no service. You take your last bite. It tastes like farewell. You push the plate forward. The woman nods. You reach for your pocket. She shakes her head. You don't argue. No one pays for truth here. Just memory. You leave. Back into the heat. Back into the town that's still pretending it has a future. Your hands smell like meat. Your lips like stories you'll never tell. You find a stoop in front of an abandoned shop and sit. Let the sun wash over you. Let the meal settle into your bloodstream like a warm, slow epiphany. A boy passes with a string of fish, none of them alive, but all still shimmering. He doesn't look at you, but he knows you've eaten. The whole town knows. It's in your posture, your silence, your fullness. You look down the street. In the distance, a wagon rattles. The sound is hollow, like a stomach after midnight. But yours isn't hollow anymore. Yours is lined with smoke and fat, and a stillness that might last until sundown. A man walks by with an accordion. He plays nothing, just holds it. Like music is a decision he hasn't made yet. You close your eyes. You can still taste the bark of the meat, the edge where spice met fire. You open your eyes. The skies turned pale. Not yet dusk, but dusk adjacent. That time when everything pauses before it remembers how to decay. You stand. You don't know where you're going. But your feet feel braver, stronger. Smoked meat is courage. Everyone knows that. You walk. Past the well. Past the woman sewing curtains with her teeth. Past the general store where nobody ever buys thread, but somehow it's always out of stock. You keep walking until you reach the saloon again, not because you plan to, just because everything leads back to it. You push the door open. The bar is darker now. Candles have replaced sunlight. The bartender nods. A new crowd, different stories, but the walls are the same. You take your seat. Not the same stool, but the same weight. He slides you something, not food, a book, leather bound, no title. You open it. The pages are blank. You nod. It makes sense. You pull the pencil from your coat, the one from this morning. You write brisket. Noon. Smoke and silence. She never spoke, but I heard everything. You close the book. Slide it back. The bartender doesn't take it, just gestures to a shelf. You place it there, next to others, all identical, all full of truth disguised as fiction. The saloon is quieter now, but not empty. You sip a glass of water that tastes faintly of ash. Outside, a coyote howls, not for food, but for memory. And you remember there's still dinner. You smile. You're ready. You sit alone at the same saloon table where you've never belonged, but somehow always return to. The wood is worn, bearing the rings of drinks past and elbows long dead. The candle on the table flickers, like it's nervous to be the only light left in the room. You stare at it, while the bartender, now more of a priest than a vendor, places a bowl in front of you. He says nothing. He never really did. The bowl is wide and shallow, filled with a dark, steaming concoction that glistens with oil and thyme. Mushrooms, not the kind from polite cookbooks. These are wild, earthy, possibly dangerous. They float like old faces you almost recognize but never greet. You lift your spoon. It clinks softly, a small metal sigh. The smell is heavy, moss, rain-soaked bark, the inside of a forgotten chapel. You taste. It is not delicious. Not exactly. It's richer than flavor. It coats your tongue with a sense of having been somewhere, done something, lost someone. You chew slowly. It doesn't need salt. It doesn't need anything. You keep eating, each spoonful a chapter you didn't write but somehow lived through. Across the room, a man tunes a broken violin. No one asks him to play. No one expects it. But the gesture is enough. Outside, the wind picks up. The saloon doors creak, but do not open. You keep eating. The mushrooms vary in texture, some soft and velvet like others, with a chew that reminds you of roots and resistance. You imagine the forest they came from, a place with no trails where the only path is instinct. You finish half the bowl and pause, not because you're full, but because something shifts. A thought rises soft, uninvited. You miss someone, not a lover, not a family member, just someone. Maybe a version of yourself from a time when you didn't know saloons like this existed. You eat again slower now. The mushrooms seem to absorb your memories, expand with your silence. The broth has cooled. It clings less, speaks clearer. You taste pepper and grief, and the kind of hope that only exists in folklore. A shadow moves in the corner, just a coat on a chair. But it watches you all the same. The candle sputters once. You're halfway between finished and unable to continue. The bartender doesn't check in. He just sets down a second bowl across from you. For no one. Or maybe for the you that just left. You look around. The room is quiet. The violin man has stopped pretending to tune. He holds the instrument like a memory bow, never touching string. You glance back at your bowl. There's a mushroom shaped like a question mark. You eat it. It doesn't answer anything, but it helps you forget what you were asking. The final spoonful is mostly broth. You drink it straight from the bowl. It's warm, like a goodbye hug from someone who won't say your name. You set the bowl down. The candle leans left, giving up on uprightness. The bartender nods, not to you, just to time. You reach into your coat, not for money, but for the pencil. Again, the book appears, this time already open. You write mushroom stew. Night. Every flavor was a memory, nothing left but broth and a breath. You don't sign it. The candle snuffs itself out. The book is gone. The violin man plays one note. It's not a song. It's a direction. You stand. You step outside. The town is different at night. Less town, more echo. The sky presses down like a thick velvet curtain. You walk. The street is empty, but not lonely. Every building hums like it remembers your story. You pass the barber shop, where you never got a haircut. The church with no God. The blacksmith's anvil that still rings from a century ago. You reach the edge of town. The dirt road stretches into a darkness that isn't menacing, just honest. You hesitate. The wind nudges. You walk. There are no signs, no milestones, just space, the kind that makes room for what you carry. In the distance, coyotes sing the last verse of something ancient. You hum along, not knowing the words. Ahead, the sky brightens just a little. Dawn. Or just an old lantern someone forgot to extinguish. You don't chase it. You don't run. You just move. A pace that belongs only to those who have tasted the last spoonful. Behind you, the saloon still stands. Doors closed. Candle gone. But the smell of stew lingers in your clothes, in your lungs, in your choices. You breathe it in. You smile. Not because you're happy, but because you understand. You keep walking. The dirt gives way to grass, then moss, then nothing you can name. You don't look back. You've eaten. You've written. You've remembered. That's enough. That's the story. And so, you have stepped out of the saloon. Not just a creaking wooden door, but the door to a world where memories are seasoned with smoke bitterness and an unacknowledged sweetness. You have tasted enough from the meat that is as dry as the unforgiven past, to the wine that is as strong as the desire to understand, to the mushroom soup, where all memories sink but do not die. Through each dish, you not only eat, but also write each line. In that old notebook is a slice of you, torn from somewhere between the dust and the silence. And now, when the last violin falls silent, when the fire has cooled, when the table is empty, you understand that this place was never a restaurant, but a living memory staged for you to remember yourself. You do not need to go back. The dishes are in your blood. The stories have fermented in your heart. The hunger has been told. And like all journeys, what remains is not a full stomach, but the knowledge that you have lived once in the wind, whistling through the saloon doors, in the smell of burning onions, and in the eyes of strangers who sat beside you silent as the last stars. So go on, under the yellow dust and cold wind, where the road no longer leads to the saloon, but leads back inside you. And if tonight, in your dreams, you hear the faint sound of frying pans, the smell of cornbread lingering in the air, know the saloon is still there, waiting for you, forever. That's the story. May your dreams be filled with wonder and peace.